When a beloved actor dies, millions of people who didn't even know them grieve in their own way. But for their co-stars, showing up to work without the person you've been acting alongside for years is tragic. He rose to prominence while starring as Finn on the musical sitcom Glee, but in 2013, Corey Monteith passed away after battling with addiction since his teenage years. The entire cast struggled to deal with the loss, especially his co-star Lea Michele, whom he had been dating at the time of his death. Michele said that eventually not acting was more painful than getting back in front of the camera. She wanted to be surrounded by the Glee cast again. After all, she and Monteith both thought of the rest of the cast and crew as family. Plus, she said that Monteith would not have wanted her to give up on her passion. Michele explained on the Ellen DeGeneres show at the end of that year, "There is an empowerment that comes with grief. At some point, you find it. It's very hard, but you will find it, and I think at a certain point you can choose to sort of fall from this, or you can choose to rise. And that's what I'm just trying to do my best for him, because I know that that's what he would have." Michele still keeps Monteith's memory close. Bea Arthur and Betty White worked together on the hilarious NBC sitcom The Golden Girls, which featured a group of over 50 women living together and finding humor in their old age. There were always rumors of a feud simmering between Arthur and White, but their co-star Rue McClanahan insisted that at the end of the day, their supposed feud really came down to artistic differences. McClanahan explained, "Bea came from a New York stage point of view. She always had what we call the fourth wall. And Betty came from a television point of view. She would flirt with the audience and pull up her skirt and say, 'Hi, sailor,' but Bea never acknowledged the audience." When Arthur passed away in 2009, White was as heartbroken as any die-hard Golden Girls fan. After her death, White said, "I knew it would hurt, I just didn't know it would hurt this much." Yes, Arthur and White would butt heads behind the scenes occasionally, but underneath it all, these two actresses had great respect for each other, and Arthur was greatly missed. When Disney Channel star Cameron Boyce passed away after a fatal seizure, it was a harrowing wake-up call for his co-stars. Boyce died young. He was only 20, and he should have had an amazing life and career ahead of him. His Descendants co-stars couldn't believe that he was gone. Dove Cameron, who played Mal and considered Boyce a close friend, said that his death reminded the cast just how precious life is. In the wake of his passing, the Descendants cast members were going out of their way to spend more time together. Cameron told E! News,
"He just was everything that everybody says he is. He was from someplace else."
Cameron also got a tattoo to remember Boyce. She chose a design with a flower coming out of a gun, an international symbol for peace and anti-war movements. She stated that Boyce was working with an organization against gun violence before his death, and she wanted to memorialize him as someone who cared deeply about peace. As Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher inspired a generation of sci-fi fans who fell in love with their Star Wars characters. When the franchise was revived with The Force Awakens in 2015, legions of fans were thrilled to see them return to their roles and bring the story to life for a new generation of fans. But when Fisher passed away in December 2016, Hamill's view on the films changed. There's no doubt that Hamill loved Fisher, and he cherished their friendship for life. However, her death affected his memories of Star Wars, and he didn't have much motivation to return for future films. Hamill told ABC News in 2018,
"Rather than being sorry that we can't have more of her, I'm just grateful that we had the time with her that we did."
Of course, Fisher did appear in The Rise of Skywalker via archive footage, and Hamill made one last cameo as Luke's Force Ghost, bringing the Skywalker saga to a close after 42 years. John Ritter played Kaylee Cuoco's father on the sitcom 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter, and while they weren't actually related, he still felt like a father figure to her. His untimely death due to complications with a heart condition left her feeling lost, and today, she still thinks about him all the time. Cuoco couldn't believe that Ritter was gone, and the cast addressed his death in a touching episode of 8 Simple Rules. Cuoco continued moving forward in her acting career, landing a major role as Penny on The Big Bang Theory. But she never forgot about her wonderful experiences of working with Ritter. On the 15th anniversary of his death in 2018, she revealed that there isn't a day that goes by when her memories with Ritter don't make her laugh. At the same time, she still mourns his loss. Her Big Bang Theory co-star Jim Parsons said, "I don't think she ever talks about him without tears in her eyes. She's emotionally stable, but there was definitely a fatherly bond." When fans of Riverdale and Beverly Hills 90210 got the news that actor Luke Perry had passed away after having a stroke, they were devastated. And his former co-star Shannon Doherty took the loss on a deeply personal level. Doherty had worked with Perry on Beverly Hills 90210, where the pair played longtime love interests. Although the original show had ended years before, Doherty was still devastated by Perry's death. He had supported her through thick and thin and stood by her side when she was fighting cancer. When the 90210 reboot was announced, Doherty originally did not plan on going back. She did not think that the show really needed her. But when she got the news about Perry's passing, she had a new perspective. She decided that she would return for the reboot after all, and it would be the perfect way to keep his memory alive. The actress revealed, "When Luke passed away, things drastically changed for me, and I felt like it was a great opportunity to honor him. And I'm really glad I made that decision because now I get to sit up here with a lot of people that I respect and love." Sadly, actress Debbie Reynolds passed away only one day after the death of her daughter, Carrie Fisher. Fans of both women couldn't believe the news, and Deborah Messing, who played Reynolds' daughter Grace on the sitcom Will and Grace, knew that her life would never be the same. From the moment Messing met Reynolds, she was struck by her bold presence. Messing told Entertainment Weekly, "Debbie was really indescribable. She would come on stage and she was a broad in the greatest sense. She always was entertaining and singing and dancing, and she was running off and doing a one-woman show, 300 days of the year. It was just crazy." Messing always looked up to Reynolds, and she knew that they couldn't let new episodes of the Will and Grace revival go by without taking the time to honor Reynolds. The writers created an episode about Grace wanting her father to hold on to her childhood home rather than selling it because she didn't want to lose those memories of her mother. Now she still posts occasional tributes to Reynolds. It's clear that she will never forget the time they spent together on set. Alan Rickman was known for many different roles, but millions of people knew him best as Severus Snape in the Harry Potter films. When he passed away in early 2016, fans of the series were heartbroken. He brought this character from the books to life, and he played the sinister role so well that it was hard to believe he was such a kind and funny man when the camera wasn't rolling. Just take it from Daniel Radcliffe, who grew up playing Harry Potter alongside Rickman. Radcliffe explained in a statement after the actor's death, "As an actor, he was one of the first of the adults on Potter to treat me like a peer rather than a child. Working with him at such a formative age was incredibly important, and I will carry the lessons he taught me for the rest of my life and career." Radcliffe said that Rickman has always supported him, whether he was working on a movie or a play, and that he wouldn't be the actor he is today without Rickman's guidance. When Paul Walker died in a car accident, his Fast and Furious co-star Vin Diesel lost a best friend. After Walker's death, Diesel visited Walker's mom. Her house was his first stop after hearing the news. Diesel shared on Facebook, "His mother hugged me and said, 'I am so sorry.' I said, 'Sorry? You're the mother who lost a son.' She said, 'Yes, but you lost your other half.'" While filming Furious 7, Diesel admitted that shooting the barbecue scene at the end of the film was very emotional. In fact, he had to step away for a few moments because he just couldn't believe that Walker wasn't there on set with the rest of the cast. Diesel told USA Today, "I had never done a barbecue scene without him, and I just cracked and broke down and had to walk off set to collect myself. That was the only time I wasn't strong enough to keep it together. But the entire cast and crew wanted to make sure that they paid homage to Walker throughout the film, finishing production with the help of the actor's brothers and ending the story with a touching tribute to their departed comrade." Harold Ramis and Bill Murray were an unstoppable comedy duo. They worked together on films like Ghostbusters and Stripes, and it seemed like everything they touched turned to gold. Sadly, the pair had a serious falling out while working together on Groundhog Day. They didn't speak for over 2 decades after. Sometimes in interviews, Ramis would admit that he missed their friendship and that he hoped they could be friends again one day. For the longest time, it looked like they would never reconcile. But when Murray found out that Ramis was on his deathbed, everything changed. His brother convinced him that he had to go visit Ramis. Murray listened, and the two finally made up. Upon his death, Murray reminisced on their many achievements together. Murray said, "Harold Ramis and I together did the National Lampoon show off-Broadway, Meatballs, Stripes, Caddyshack, Ghostbusters, and Groundhog Day. He earned his keep on this planet. God bless him." Superhero films haven't always earned glowing critical reviews, particularly in a pre-2008 world. But Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins sequel, The Dark Knight, was an exception. Heath Ledger played the Joker to Christian Bale's Batman, and although both actors were lauded for their performances, Ledger's take on the Joker truly stood out. Bale had a great respect for Ledger's talent. He was truly a gifted actor, and that was perhaps never more evident than it was in Christopher Nolan's game-changing epic. When Ledger died several months before the release of the film, Bale was shattered. He told Parade, "He was somebody who'd I'd been seeing on a daily basis for months. It takes a long time to accept that someone's gone, when all body and mind are telling you that this is somebody you will know for a great deal of time. He was something of a kindred spirit to myself." Bale was disgusted by the way the media covered Ledger's death, and he hoped that people could move past it and view his work on The Dark Knight as a celebration of his life. It seems like Bale's wish came true. It came as a surprise to no one when Ledger posthumously won an Oscar for the role.
TV might be all about enjoying a little bit of escapism, but sometimes the real world gets in the way. And there's no more shocking an example of this than when a beloved actor dies, forcing a show to say goodbye to the character they played. Miguel Ferrer was part of an accomplished show business family. He was the son of Oscar-winning actor Jose Ferrer and 50s pop singer Rosemary Clooney, as well as a cousin of superstar George Clooney. A prolific actor, he joined the cast of CBS's NCIS Los Angeles in 2012 to play Owen Granger, assistant director of the NCIS and overseer of the Office of Special Projects in the LA branch. Ostensibly arriving to hunt down a killer, he's really there to keep an eye on the show's regular squad and bring his experience as a CIA officer to the team. In a 2016 episode, A.D. Granger tells his colleagues that he's dying from a form of cancer, possibly related to exposure to Agent Orange during his time carrying out government missions in Southeast Asia. Granger later disappears, disappearing from his hospital bed and presumably dying from terminal cancer off-screen. By the time Granger's storyline was wrapped in 2017, Ferrer had died too. Like his character, Ferrer had been suffering from cancer and passed away the same year at the age of 61. After a few years plying his trade as a film actor, John Ritter returned to television in 2002's 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. And TV has always been good to him. He won an Emmy for his work on Three's Company, and he starred for 3 years on the 90s CBS rom-com Hearts of Fire. In 8 Simple Rules, Ritter played befuddled family man Paul Hennessy, who's deeply anxious about his kids aging into rebellious, independent teens. Ritter had only filmed 1 full season of the ABC sitcom when he fell ill on set in September 2003, complaining of nausea, weakness, and chest pain. Later that day, 54-year-old Ritter had died of an undiagnosed heart ailment called an aortic dissection. After a brief hiatus, 8 Simple Rules returned to television, necessarily revamped due to the loss of its star. The 2-part episode Goodbye reveals that Paul died after collapsing at the grocery store. In subsequent episodes, James Garner and David Spade join the cast as Grandpa Jim and nephew CJ, respectively, who move in to help the widowed Kate Hennessy raise her 3 kids. Will Lee was a regular presence on Sesame Street from the beginning, portraying Mr. Hooper, the kindly proprietor of Hooper's store. Big Bird absolutely adores the sweet old man, and not just because he mixes up a mean birdseed milkshake. Lee made public appearances as Mr. Hooper and recorded segments for Sesame Street up until November 1982. 1 month later, Lee died of a heart attack in New York City's Lenox Hill Hospital at the age of 74. A survey conducted shortly before his death found that Mr. Hooper was the most recognized human adult on Sesame Street. In the wake of his passing, Sesame Street producers were left with the monumental task of having to explain the death of Mr. Hooper and the concept of death in general to an audience of extremely young and emotionally vulnerable children. The series ultimately decided to tackle this issue head-on, with the help of some consulting child psychologists. Airing on Thanksgiving Day, 1983, the absolutely heartbreaking episode in question finds the childlike Big Bird unable to locate Mr. Hooper, and the adults on Sesame Street gently explaining to him that the old shopkeeper has died and that death is final.
You know, I'm gonna miss you, Mr. Looper.
That's Hooper, Big Bird. Hooper.
As Big Bird learns, it's okay to be sad about loss, but also that Mr. Hooper will live forever in the memories of all who loved him. Nicholas Colasandro worked extensively in television in the 1960s and 1970s, both as an actor and as a director. In 1982, he started work on Cheers, portraying Ernie Pantuso, the easygoing bartender who'd once coached bar owner Sam Malone in his baseball days. Coach became Colasanto's most recognizable role, which is a truly impressive feat given the breadth of his career. When he was cast on Cheers, Colasanto was well into his 50s, and already suffering from heart problems. His health took a turn for the worse in late 1984. Following a hospitalization for water in his lungs, he couldn't get medical clearance to return to the rigors of shooting Cheers. In February 1985, the 61-year-old actor died of a heart attack. A few months later, Woody Harrelson joined the cast as Cheers' new bartender, Woody Boyd, following a brief explanation of Coach's passing. Coach is mentioned sporadically through the rest of the show's run. Phil Hartman dominated Saturday Night Live during his 9-year stint on the show, but he then moved on to another iconic ensemble show, NBC's workplace sitcom News Radio. Hartman played Bill McNeil, an obnoxious, rude, self-absorbed newsreader for New York City radio station WNYX. He portrayed the part with relish from 1995 to 1998, making his final appearance in the Titanic-themed fourth season finale. In May 1998, before the fifth season of News Radio went into production, Hartman's difficult marriage to wife Brynn Omdahl ended in unspeakable tragedy. The deeply troubled model and actress shot a sleeping Hartman to death, then took her own life. Hartman was just 49 years old. News Radio's fifth season, which aired the following fall, begins with Bill Moves On, in which the WNYX team heads to the office after the funeral of Bill McNeil, said to have died from a heart attack. Most of the episode consists of the other characters talking about Bill and even openly crying, tears that might well have been real and could easily have been shed for Hartman himself. Riverdale is the place where multiple generations of iconic teen pop culture converge. Based on the classic Archie comic stable of characters, the CW series deposits them in a dreary, foggy, Twin Peaks-like town absolutely rife with dark doings. Many of the grown-ups are portrayed by teen idols of yore, including 80s brat packer Molly Ringwald as Archie's mother, and Beverly Hills 90210's Luke Perry as Archie's wise and doting father, Fred Andrews. In the first episode of Season 4, Archie finds out that his father has unexpectedly been killed by a hit-and-run driver after he stopped to help a stranded motorist played by Perry's own 90210 love interest, Shannon Doherty. That abrupt choice came about due to the tragic real-life death of the actor. In February 2019, Perry suffered a severe stroke at the age of 52 and was immediately hospitalized and placed in a medically induced coma. He died just a few days later. The Sopranos blew audiences away with its uniquely thoughtful exploration of what makes a man turn to a life of violent crime. Tony Soprano really is a complicated guy. He's a mob boss and a family man who has his rivals killed but then needs to discuss it with his therapist. And The Sopranos suggests that a lot of Tony's anguish and emotional pain stems from his mother, Livia, a manipulative, self-serving, and conspiratorial abuser. Nancy Marchand played the character with a fascinating, chilling intensity. A 4-time Emmy winner for her work on newspaper drama Lou Grant, Marchand added 2 more nominations to her resume for portraying Livia. The second, however, came posthumously. In June 2000, the 71-year-old Marchand died of cancer and chronic pulmonary disease. The Sopranos' 3rd season hit HBO in early 2001, and in the episode Proshai Levushka, it's revealed that Livia Soprano died in her sleep, having suffered a stroke. John Spencer worked extensively from the 1960s onwards, frequently playing tough and world-weary cops, lawyers, soldiers, and a number of other authority figures. But they merely prepared him for his signature role, that of recovering alcoholic and White House Chief of Staff Leo McGarry on NBC's The West Wing. Spencer earned 5 Emmy nominations for this role, finally winning the prize in 2002. In the show's 7th and final season, McGarry is picked to be the vice presidential candidate on the ticket of presidential candidate Matt Santos. The duo wins the election. Although McGarry doesn't live to see it, he dies of a heart attack in his hotel room on election night, just before the polls close.
Hey.
He died, Josh.
This sad twist was necessitated by the death of Spencer, who suffered a fatal heart attack a few days before his 59th birthday in December 2005. Andrew Campbell wasn't a main character on Mad Men, but he was an influential one. The stern, aloof, and disapproving father of slimy young advertising executive Pete Campbell made quite the mark on his son's psyche.
He appears in just one first-season episode, 2007's New Amsterdam, and could have eventually made some return appearances if not for the tragic and unexpected death of his actor, Christopher Alpert. In January 2008, Alpert was killed by an avalanche while skiing in California's San Gabriel Mountains.
In the second season episode, Flight 1, Employees at the Sterling Cooper ad agency listened to radio news about an American Airlines flight that crashed shortly after taking off from New York City. That is, in fact, an actual tragedy that occurred in March 1962, another testament to the 60s set show's commitment to historical accuracy. Later in the episode, Pete learns that his father was on the flight and that he sadly didn't survive. Larry Hagman played one of the most famous TV characters of all time, but not quite one of the most beloved. From 1978 to 1991, he starred as backstabbing oil magnate J.R. Ewing on Dallas. The Texas tycoon behaves so badly that somebody was bound to take a shot at him, and in 1980, somebody finally did. The second season of Dallas ended on a cliffhanger when an unidentified attacker guns down JR, leaving millions of viewers to wonder if the character would survive. He did survive the shooting, and Ewing went on to survive another brush with death in the final episode of Dallas, when a ghost convinces the wicked man to kill himself. Whether JR lives or dies isn't explicitly revealed, but modern fans can assume he survived, as he's a main character in TNT's 2012 Dallas continuation. Shortly after the 2012 show's first season aired, Hagman died in November 2012 at the age of 81 after a fight against cancer. So Dallas decided to have J.R. Ewing die too, and writers revived the "Who Shot J.R." slogan to do it. In a 2013 episode, an unidentified person puts a bullet in the industrialist, later revealed to be a setup by J.R. himself, to arrange one more tricky business deal while he dealt with his terminal cancer. Portraying the dim but sweet Finn Hudson on Fox's musical dramedy Glee was a breakthrough role for Canadian actor Corey Monteith. The likable star anchored the popular teen show for 4 seasons, all the while quietly struggling with a powerful drug addiction. His mother, Ann McGregor, told ABC News that Monteith started using drugs at 15 and struggled with substance addiction off and on for the next decade and a half. In July 2013, the body of the 31-year-old actor was found in his Vancouver hotel room. He had died of a fatal overdose of heroin and alcohol. In October 2013, Glee aired an episode entitled The Quarterback, in which Finn's friends, fellow club members, family, and teachers all agonizingly mourn their friend and colleague. The series also noticeably refuses to discuss how Finn died.
Everyone wants to talk about how he died too, but who cares? One moment in his whole life.
Finn is remembered frequently through the rest of the show's run. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration's 24/7 national helpline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. Each and every episode of the warm, crackling, low-key dramedy Gilmore Girls features an odd credit. Special appearance by Edward Herrmann. The actor appeared in many episodes, so he was a recurring cast member. But this unique introduction spoke to his status as the best-known and most esteemed member of the Gilmore Girls ensemble. Before he portrayed the wealthy and impeccably dressed Richard Gilmore, Herrmann had portrayed President Franklin Roosevelt in multiple TV projects, had been part of projects such as American Playhouse and St. Elsewhere, and served as the voice of the History Channel. As the New York Times aptly put it, he had an unmistakably noble air. Gilmore Girls ended its original 7-season run in 2007, but returned for 4 made-for-Netflix movie-length episodes in 2016. In the interim, Herrmann ultimately lost his struggle with brain cancer, spending nearly a month in a New York intensive care unit before passing away in December 2014. Accordingly, Gilmore Girls: A Year in the Life revolves around his character's passing. A few months before the events of the miniseries, Richard Gilmore dies of a heart attack, leaving the Gilmore women, particularly his wife Emily, in deep grief and struggling to find a way to move on. Lee Thompson Young became a teen TV star by playing a teen TV star. As Jet Jackson on the Disney Channel's The Famous Jet Jackson, he portrayed a young actor struggling with fame, family, and school. Young successfully transitioned to more adult projects, but the most prominent role of his adult life was that of Barry Frost on Rizzoli and Isles, a detective who often assists the titular duo. On August 19, 2013, Young failed to report to the Rizzoli and Isles set as expected. Police went to his home to see if he was all right and discovered that the 29-year-old actor had taken his own life. The show briefly shut down production and in June 2014 addressed the fate of Young's character. In the episode Goodbye, Frost is revealed to have died off-screen in a car accident, and the other characters attend his memorial service. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call or chat online with the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. 1-800-273-8255. A versatile character actor, Christopher Evan Welch appeared in many films and TV shows of the 21st century, but he's likely best known for what would turn out to be his final role, Peter Gregory on Silicon Valley. Welch appeared in 5 episodes of the first season of the HBO Tech World satire, courted for his cash by the main characters as they worked to launch a potentially revolutionary app. In December 2013, 4 months before Silicon Valley debuted, Welch died in a Los Angeles hospital at age 48, following a years-long battle with lung cancer. Silicon Valley waited until its second season premiere in 2015 to mention what happened to Peter Gregory. Richard sees a news item online about the investor's sudden death, and later learns from Gregory's associate Monica that he keeled over during a safari while trying to run from a stray hippo that had wandered into his tent, which in fairness is a heck of a way to go.
That is so
very
strange.
Very sad.
Very sad.
Tragic.
Strange.
If nothing else, USA's 2002 series Monk is memorable for its unique tone. It follows a detective, Adrian Monk, who often solves some serious grisly crimes. But Monk is also a comedy, with plenty of carefully and consciously kind humor derived from the title character's obsessive-compulsive disorder. Helping to strike that balance was the character of Dr. Charles Kroger, Monk's patient and helpful psychiatrist, who works with him to deal with his OCD and lingering grief over the death of his wife. So it was a major blow to the show when the actor who portrayed him, Stanley Camel, passed away from a heart attack in April 2008. The first episode of the show's 7th season, the first without Camel, aired in July 2008 with a dedication to the actor. It's mentioned in dialogue that Dr. Kroger similarly died of a heart attack. Angel is a show about ageless beings and supernatural events, so death isn't all that final a concept for its various vampires, demons, and, angels. When the Buffy the Vampire Slayer spin-off premiered in 1999, there were only 3 main characters, one of them being Doyle, a half-demonic hero who receives alarming visions that vampire detective Angel uses to solve his mysteries. Portraying the impish Irish rogue was Glenn Quinn, previously known for his work as Becky's ne'er-do-well husband Mark on Roseanne. In Hero, the 9th episode of Angel, Doyle sacrifices his own life to save angels and never appears on the show again. However, frequent Angel writer and director Tom Minear really wanted to bring Doyle back. He told an Angel fan blog in 2007, "Every once in a while I'd bring it up, but I'd get shot down." Any hopes of Doyle's return were rendered impossible, however, in 2002, when Quinn died of a drug overdose at age 32. Years later, his Roseanne character was also written out of the show. An episode of the 2018 reboot series mentions that Mark has died and ends with a dedication to Quinn himself. It's arguably easier for an animated series to handle the death of a cast member. As the performer's image is not used, producers can get a new sound-alike actor to take over a role vacated by a death. Case in point, actress Grey Delisle Griffin became the new Martin Prince on The Simpsons after the death of original actor Russi Taylor in 2019. This is largely because the show's writers were anxious about killing off a child character. But that's not the direction they took when Marcia Wallace died in October 2013. Wallace used her distinctive voice to play Bart Simpson's sarcastic and long-suffering 4th-grade teacher, Mrs. Krabappel, for well over 20 years. As it turns out, Wallace simply wasn't replaceable, and so her character was retired. About a week after the 70-year-old passed away, The Simpsons paid tribute in an episode's opening credits. Bart's chalkboard message that week reads, "We'll really miss you, Mrs. K." A March 2014 episode includes an epilogue in which Krabappel's husband, Ned Flanders, daydreams about their good times together and is joined in mourning by one of her students, Nelson Muntz.
TV creates kind of an immortality for its actors that can seem surreal, so it can be jarring to learn that certain stars of the small screen have died. With that in mind, here are some sitcom actors who you may not have known have passed away. From 1986 to 1990, NBC fell in love with Alf, a fuzzy, smart-mouthed alien from the planet Melmac who occasionally tried to eat the family cat. The father of that family was Willie Tanner, played by Max Wright. He was the straight man to the wisecracking Alf puppet, an experience that eventually soured him enough that he reportedly didn't bother saying goodbye to anyone on his last day of work on the series. In 1995, Wright was diagnosed with lymphoma, which went into remission after radiation and chemotherapy treatments. His work was on the decline after Alf, but after his diagnosis, diagnosis and subsequent remission, he started to find joy again. In 2000, he told People magazine, "I came back to life after being on the edge with a tremendous gusto for the things I love." Among other things, Wright landed a regular gig on the Norm Macdonald sitcom Norm and received a Tony nomination for his work on the Anton Chekhov play Ivanov. Unfortunately, Wright's lymphoma didn't stay in remission, and he succumbed to the disease in 2019 at the age of 75. Lisa Robin Kelly is best known for her role as Lori Foreman on That 70s Show. For the first 5 seasons, she played Eric's older sister, but in the 6th season, she was replaced by Christina Moore. In 2012, Kelly told ABC News that alcoholism was the reason for her departure, and she also said that her alcohol abuse began after she suffered a miscarriage. As she explained it, "I had lost a baby. As a result of that, I lost it. I lost everything, and I was abusing alcohol." At the time, Kelly said that she was ready for a comeback, but unfortunately, that wasn't in the cards. From 2010 to 2013, she had a number of run-ins with the law. She was charged with driving under the influence in 2010, and in 2013, she was arrested for DUI again when she reportedly parked her car on California's I-5 freeway, blocking a lane of traffic. She was also arrested for some violent crimes. She was charged with corporal injury upon a spouse in March 2012, and that November, both she and her husband, Robert Joseph Gillum, were arrested after an alleged domestic disturbance. Kelly's battle with addiction didn't end well. She died shortly after checking into rehab in August 2013. The Los Angeles County coroner deemed that her death was due to combined drug intoxication and an accidental overdose. She was 43. John Ritter was a staple of American TV for decades. Best known as Jack Tripper on the long-running sitcom Three's Company, he didn't slow down after that show or its spin-offs ended. In the late 80s, he helped coin the term dramedy with the ABC show Hooperman. In the early 90s, he led the political satire Hearts of Fire as senatorial aide John Hartman. He also had memorable film appearances like 1996 Oscar-winning Sling Blade. Ritter's final role was protective father Paul Hennessy on the ABC sitcom 8 Simple Rules. In September 2013, while rehearsing for the show, he was taken to the hospital after vomiting and complaining of chest pains. Initially, he was treated for a heart attack, but it was later discovered that he had a tear in his aorta. He died during surgery a week shy of his 55th birthday.
This wasn't supposed to happen, Mom. Not now. When we were old and gray and living someplace warm.
Shelley Morrison enjoyed a long, fruitful acting career, including regular appearances as Sister Seastow on the Sally Field starring 60s sitcom The Flying Nun. But the role she became best known for wouldn't come until 1999 with the season 1 finale of Will and Grace. Rosario is mentioned as early as the series premiere, but we don't actually meet her until the season 1 finale when Karen gets Jack to marry Rosario so she won't be deported. Rosario wasn't meant to show up beyond that episode, but she proved to be popular enough to stick around. While she works as Karen's maid over the course of the series, it's eventually revealed that she has a degree in clinical psychology, performed with Jennifer Lopez, and somehow rakes in $350,000 per year. Morrison was asked to reprise the role for the 2017 Will and Grace revival, but by that point she had retired from acting for good. In December 2019, news broke that she had passed away from heart failure after a brief illness at the age of 83.
Rosie and I would do other normal couple things. You know, like get into a fight at IKEA.
While he died much too young, Merlin Santana had a decades-long career in sitcoms. In the early 90s, he played the recurring role of Stanley, boyfriend of Rudy Huxtable on The Cosby Show. Shortly after, his character Marcus proved to be one of the most popular parts of Getting By, a short-lived sitcom about 2 single mothers and their children. Merlin's last big regular sitcom spot was as young ladies' man Romeo Santana on the WB's The Steve Harvey Show. That show ended in 2002, the same year that Santana was killed in his car in Los Angeles. He was only 26 years old when he was shot in the head by a man named Damian Andre Gates, who apparently erroneously believed that Santana had been making advances toward his girlfriend. Gates was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences plus 70 years in prison for killing Santana and for attempting to kill fellow actor Brandon Quinton Adams, who was in the car with Santana. During Home Improvement's 8 seasons, one of the most popular characters was also its least visible. With his face always obscured, usually by offense, Earl Hindman's Wilson W. Wilson Jr. doled out Yoda-like wisdom to the tool-obsessed Tim Taylor. Audiences didn't get to see Wilson's entire face until the series finale's curtain call, though in the meantime, the show occasionally had fun with the audience by showing the bottom half of his face, but not the top. Hindman had been working in film and TV since the 60s, mainly in smaller roles. His big screen credits include the 1981 military school drama Taps and the 1985 western Silverado. Before Home Improvement, he was best known as Detective Lieutenant Bob Reed on the soap opera Ryan's Hope. 4 years after Home Improvement ended, the man behind Wilson had to give another goodbye. In December 2003, Hindman died of lung cancer at the age of 61. While it's not the only thing he ever did, Gary Coleman will always be remembered for the role of Arnold Jackson on Different Strokes. Arnold was the younger of two Harlem-born brothers taken in by successful businessman Philip Drummond. Todd Bridges played Arnold's older brother Willis, the namesake of Coleman's classic catchphrase.
What you talking about, Willis?
Coleman dealt with severe health issues his whole life. While he was adamant about not publicly sharing specifics, it is known that his short stature was due to kidney disease. He underwent at least 2 kidney transplants that were ultimately unsuccessful. A year before his passing, he had heart surgery, after which he was seriously ill with pneumonia. While nothing has been made officially public, it seems likely that one or more of these issues ultimately led to Coleman's death. He passed away in 2010 after falling down the stairs in his home and hitting his head. He'd suffered a number of seizures in the preceding months, and it's believed that those seizures may have been what caused the fall. The injury eventually led to a brain hemorrhage from which he didn't recover.
And while that storyline is too familiar, a famous kid struggling to find his way as an adult only to die young, each time it's just as tragic.
Years before Will Smith was punching out aliens, he was better known as half of the hip-hop duo DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. That fame helped him eventually bridge the worlds of hip-hop and acting with the NBC sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Smith played a fictionalized version of himself who's sent to live with his aunt and uncle in the Los Angeles neighborhood Bel-Air after a confrontation with a violent gang. Over the course of the series, James Avery would become one of the most well-loved father figures on American TV as Smith's Uncle Phil. Besides Fresh Prince, Avery was also known for his exceptional voice work. He was the voice of Shredder in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated series, and of James Rhodes, aka War Machine, in the 90s Iron Man cartoon. As for his live-action work, he didn't have too many huge roles besides Uncle Phil. In a 2007 interview with the New York Film Academy, he was candid about missing out on the spotlight, saying, "You can either be a movie star or an actor. I'm an actor, but I've done pretty good." Avery died in December 2013 due to complications from open-heart surgery. He was 68. In the first 4 seasons of the 80s sitcom Growing Pains, Andrew Koenig played Boner, best friend to Kirk Cameron's Mike Seaver. His character left the show in season 4 to drop out of college and join the Marine Corps. Koenig's acting work after Growing Pains wasn't extensive, though he had some other memorable claims to fame. He was the son of Walter Koenig, best known as the original Chekhov on Star Trek. Andrew Koenig also starred in one of the most famous fan films of all time. He played the Joker in Batman Dead End, in which the Dark Knight finds himself facing the xenomorphs from the Alien films, as well as the ruthless hunters from the Predator franchise. In the 90s and 2000s, Koenig became an outspoken activist and gained notoriety in his efforts to draw more attention to China's support to the military dictatorship ruling Burma. In 2008, he was arrested for interrupting Pasadena's Rose Parade by blocking a float advertising the Beijing Summer Olympics and holding up a sign that said "China, Free Burma." In February 2010, Koenig's body was found hanging from a tree in Vancouver's Stanley Park. His father confirmed at a press conference that his son had taken his own life. He later wrote on his website that Andrew died after a long battle with depression and urged other depression sufferers to reach out for help. David Strickland's acting career was tragically short. In the 90s, he had popular recurring roles on the sitcoms Sister Sister and Mad About You. In 1996, he was tapped for the part he'll forever be known for, young, eager rock reporter Todd on the Brooke Shields starring Suddenly Susan. Behind the scenes, Strickland suffered from mental health and substance abuse issues. His Suddenly Susan co-star Nestor Carbonell told People magazine in 1999, if he had an episode where he fell off the wagon, it would be once every 2 months, sometimes once every 6 months. He'd have a bad episode and we'd all worry about it for a night or two, and he'd resurface as if nothing had happened. He'd always resurface. Strickland was reportedly off his prescribed medication and upset about much of his role in the 1999 rom-com Forces of Nature being left on the cutting room floor when he and Andy Dick flew to Las Vegas in March 1999. The pair reportedly bounced from strip club to strip club, partying hard, and on March 22nd, Strickland was found in his motel room where he'd hanged himself with a bedsheet. The writers of Suddenly Susan decided to have art imitate life. In the season 3 finale, Todd's coworkers panic when he goes missing. They tell stories about him, interspersed with clips of out-of-character interviews with the cast. The episode ends with the police calling to report his fate, which is left ambiguous. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, 8255. Sadly, 2020 has already proven to be a year in which we've lost some big names, even in just a few short months. From founding fathers of comedy and veteran character actors to up-and-coming stars that never got a chance to shine, here are the actors we've lost in 2020 so far. Hollywood legend Kirk Douglas, the patriarch of the Douglas dynasty, died in February 2020 at the age of 103. His son, actor Michael Douglas, confirmed his death via Instagram. He wrote, "He leaves a legacy in film that will endure for generations to come." Born in New York as Isser Danielovich, Douglas made his Broadway debut in 1941. His career was interrupted by the outbreak of World War II, but Douglas returned to the stage after being honorably discharged from the Navy in 1944, and before long, Hollywood beckoned. 1949's Champion made him a star and gave him his first of 3 Oscar nominations, but his most famous picture is Stanley Kubrick's Spartacus. Douglas famously spoke out in favor of blacklisted screenwriter Dalton Trumbo, insisting he was properly credited for his work on Spartacus. Douglas later wrote in his autobiography, "I think one of the most important things in my career was the breaking of the blacklist." In the same book, Douglas also discussed his regrets. After starring in a stage adaptation of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he tried for years to get a film version made. By the time it happened, Douglas was too old to reprise the role of McMurphy, which went to Jack Nicholson. Douglas wrote, "I made more money from that film than any I acted in, and I would gladly give back every cent if I could have played that role." Terry Jones, best known for his work with the groundbreaking British comedy troupe Monty Python, passed away in January 2020 after battling a rare form of dementia. In a statement, his family said, "We have all lost a kind, funny, warm, creative, and truly loving man whose uncompromising individuality, relentless intellect, and extraordinary humor have given pleasure to countless millions across 6 decades." Jones was 77 years old. Early in his career, he had been instrumental in developing the unique stream of consciousness style that made Monty Python's Flying Circus the game-changing TV show it was, and he would later go on to spearhead 3 of the group's original feature films. 1975's Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which he co-directed with Terry Gilliam, is regularly ranked among the funniest films ever made. Jones then went on to helm 1979's Monty Python's Life of Brian, in which he played the titular character's cantankerous mother and delivered the film's most iconic line.
"Now you listen here! He's not the Messiah! He's a very naughty boy! Now go away!"
Finally, Jones directed 1983's Monty Python's The Meaning of Life, the last movie to feature all 6 pythons. The remaining members of the influential troupe paid tribute to Jones following his passing. Fellow Python Michael Palin said, "He was far more than one of the funniest writer-performers of his generation. He was the complete Renaissance comedian. Writer, director, presenter, historian, brilliant children's author, and the warmest, most wonderful company you could wish to have." Ugandan actress Nikita Waligwa, who starred in the 2016 Disney film Queen of Katwe, died from a brain tumor in February 2020. She was first diagnosed with a tumor in 2016, but thanks to a fundraising effort, was flown to India for treatment and soon got the all clear. A second tumor developed, however, and this time she couldn't be saved. She was just 15 years old. Queen of Katwe is a biographical drama about real-life chess player Fiona Mutesi, a poor Ugandan girl who went from the slums of Katwe to the World Chess Olympiads. Waligwa played Mutesi's real-life friend and fellow chess star Gloria Nansobaga, who was shocked when she heard the news. She told the BBC, "I couldn't bear to hear that someone who acted as me in a film had died. I loved her from my heart." Actor David Oyelowo and Oscar winner Lupita Nyong'o, who also starred in the movie, both took to Instagram to pay tribute to the teen. Nyong'o wrote, "She played Gloria with such vibrancy. In her real life, she had the enormous challenge of battling brain cancer. My thoughts and prayers are with her family and community as they come to terms with having to say goodbye so soon." Oyelowo echoed those sentiments, calling Waligwa's battle humbling to witness in his own post. He said, "She was a ball of light. Her light will live on." Both a brilliant character actor and star of numerous Oscar-winning movies, actor Jack Kehoe passed away in January 2020. The Queens-born actor lived in the Hollywood Hills, but had been out of the spotlight since suffering a stroke in 2015. He was 85. Kehoe joined the Army straight out of high school and served 3 years with the 101st Airborne Division. He trained in the performance arts under Stella Adler after leaving the military and soon hit the stage, putting in an acclaimed performance in the Eugene O'Neill play A Moon for the Misbegotten. This opened the door to Hollywood, where Kehoe would establish himself as a capable foil for some of the biggest stars of the time, and where he would star alongside some of the world's most iconic actors, too. Sally Kirkland, who co-starred with Kehoe in The Sting, paid tribute to her late colleague on Twitter. She wrote, "He was a wonderful character actor who was unforgettable in Serpico and The Untouchables. God bless his beautiful soul, journey home to the heart of God." Star of a number of different TV shows and low-budget movies, Australian actor Harry Haynes passed away in January 2020 at the age of 27. His mother confirmed his death in an Instagram post, writing, "He had the world at his feet, but sadly he struggled with mental illness and addiction. A brilliant spark shone bright too short a time. I will miss you, Harry, every day of my life." The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner Coroner's Office announced in early March 2020 that Haynes died of fentanyl intoxication. Haynes was gender fluid and spoke openly about his desire to become the first gender fluid icon. When he sat down with Close Up Culture to talk about his musical project Anti-Boy, he said he'd always disliked the idea of labels. Haynes explained, "It's like feeling like something is wrong with you because society has told you that you need to behave and act a certain way, and you see a professional and they diagnose you with a mental disorder." He continued, "I would rather look at the environment and see what is causing these feelings of negativity and discomfort to solve the issue, rather than put a Band-Aid over it." New York actor Stan Kirsch, best known for playing Richie Ryan in the Highlander television series and for a memorable appearance on the iconic sitcom Friends, tragically took his own life in January 2020. He was 51. After sharing the news on Facebook, Kirsch's wife Kristen Green wrote, "I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of love and support." Kirsch began his TV career with bit parts on a variety of shows throughout the early 90s. He made his debut as streetwise punk turned immortal Richard H. Ryan in 1992, and would go on to appear in over 100 episodes of Highlander over the next 6 years. An official statement on the show's Facebook page read, "Without Stan Kirsch, Highlander the series would have been far less. He brought a sense of humor, kindness, and youthful enthusiasm to the character of Richie Ryan." In the middle of his run on Highlander, Kirsch landed a spot on Friends, playing the way too young, still in high school boyfriend of Monica. Kirsch was also a well-known acting coach. Best known for playing Josephine on the CBS sitcom King of Queens, character actor Norma Michaels died in January 2020. Her obituary confirmed that she passed away peacefully at her Palm Springs home. She was 95. Michaels worked on 7 episodes of King of Queens, just one of the many comedies she popped up in over the course of a career that began back in the mid-50s. In later years, she appeared on pretty much every major sitcom or comedy from the 90s and 2000s, with her final TV role being an appearance in the hit cop comedy Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
It's going so slow. There we go.
Oh, my glasses.
All right, well, let's go to 5-4.
But Michaels wasn't a one-trick pony. In fact, she had some serious acting chops, too. Paying tribute to Michaels, screenwriter Christopher Kubasik recalled being blown away by her skill when he worked with her on the fantasy drama series The Booth at the End. Kubasik tweeted, "It was so committed and sensitive a performance. I could feel an unexpected energy spread across the crew as everyone got the show. In that moment, I was so grateful to Norma." William Bogert, who is best known for his role as Brandon Brindle in the 80s sci-fi sitcom Small Wonder, died in January 2020. The actor passed away in his home state of New York at the age of 83. Bogert made his debut starring in a 1964 political ad called Confessions of a Republican, in which he delivers a monologue about the dangers of trusting Republican presidential nominee Barry Goldwater. The ad went viral in 2016 when people started to notice eerie similarities between Goldwater and Republican then-candidate Donald Trump. Bogert was a staunch Republican when he filmed the ad, but his loyalties changed over the years, and he reprised the character in a campaign video for Hillary Clinton. Bogert started landing regular TV roles after the ad aired and went on to appear in 28 episodes of Small Wonder, which followed a family of robotics engineers. Bogert was also seen on the big screen, most notably in 1983's War Games, playing Matthew Broderick's father in the Cold War sci-fi classic. Bogert's wife, Erin Oscar, was a puppeteer best known for her work on The Muppet Show. She passed away in 1993. TV and theater actress Marcia Kramer passed away in January 2020. Her death was confirmed by director Jeff Greenberg, who had worked with her on the ABC sitcom Modern Family. He tweeted, "So sad to hear that my longtime friend Marcia Kramer passed away yesterday at the age of 74. She was so delightful in the 14 episodes she shot as Margaret on Modern Family over the last 7 years, but I'll always remember her soaring aloft as Wendy." Greenberg was referring to the 1979 Broadway revival of Peter Pan, in which Kramer played Wendy Darling opposite Sandy Duncan in the title role. She also appeared in a number of other stage and small screen roles over the years, popping up in everything from Dr. Ken to Days of Our Lives. Modern Family was her most notable screen role, but Kramer also had a number of credits on a range of sitcoms, including Malcolm in the Middle and Frasier, on which she played the oft-mentioned, rarely seen radio host Tootie. Brooklyn native John Carlin, best known for his roles in Dark Shadows and Cagney and Lacey, passed away in January 2020. The Dark Shadows News Twitter page confirmed that he died at a hospice in California, having suffered a number of health setbacks over the past decade. A family spokesman later confirmed the cause of death as congestive heart failure. He was 86. Carlin, a Korean War vet, made his acting debut in 1960, replacing the late Rip Torn in a Broadway production of the Tennessee Williams classic Sweet Bird of Youth. 6 years later, he won the part of Willie Lomas, the con artist who unwittingly frees vampire Barnabas Collins in Dark Shadows. Carlin remained a fan favorite when the show ended, attending events and conventions. After winning a Primetime Emmy for his work on Cagney and Lacey in 1987, he told the Chicago Tribune, "I'm 40 pounds heavier and I have a mustache, but people still recognize me." Carlin appeared in 124 episodes of Cagney and Lacey, playing the latter's dependable husband, Harvey. It wasn't the meatiest of roles, but it was one that Carlin relished all the same. He later said, "The secret of Harvey Lacey is that he's liked. Harvey being shuffled into the background doesn't bother me." He reprised the role for 1996's Cagney and Lacey True Convictions, which was his last feature-length performance. Raspy voiced actor Kevin Conway, famed for his explosive performances on the stage and screen, passed away in February 2020. His longtime partner Geraldine Newman told the New York Times that the Harlem native died of a heart attack. He was 77. Conway joined the Navy after graduating from Brooklyn's Bishop Loughlin High School in 1959. When he left the military, he secured a mailroom job at IBM and was actively working his way up the company ladder when he decided he wanted a change of direction. He enrolled in acting classes and began landing stage roles, first in off-Broadway productions and later on Broadway proper. Conway played Dr. Trevis in Bernard Pomerantz's The Elephant Man, a role he reprised for a televised performance of the play. Hollywood saw Conway as a tough guy when he first went west. The New Yorker threw his weight about in the late 70s Sylvester Stallone flicks Fist and Paradise Alley. But as he got older, the offers became more varied. He turned down the chance to play King Theoden in The Lord of the Rings, a decision he came to regret. And sadly, he would never get an opportunity quite like that again. Still, Conway worked steadily as a voice actor and narrator in the last few years of his life. Missouri-born actress Lynn Cohen may have appeared in dozens of big films and TV shows over the course of her career, but she was perhaps best known for her role as the hilariously frank housekeeper Magda in Sex and the City. Cohen passed away in February 2020 at the age of 86. Described by Deadline as a staple in the New York theater community, Cohen earned several awards for her work on the stage. Her film debut came in 1983 when she played a minor part in the mystery drama Without a Trace, but her career on screen wouldn't start to pick up steam until the late 90s. She appeared in 10 feature films between 1996 and 2000 when she made her debut on Sex and the City. Cohen had done TV before, but portraying Cynthia Nixon's Ukrainian maid and nanny on the smash hit HBO show exposed her to whole new levels of fame.
No! Yes?
She reprised the role of Magda in the 2008 Sex and the City movie, as well as its 2010 sequel. Several former Sex and the City cast members took to social media after hearing about Cohen's passing, the leading lady included. Sarah Jessica Parker wrote on an Instagram post, "Beautiful Lynn Cohen, Miranda's dear and necessary Magda, our dear SATC colleague, talent, grace, inspiration, R.I.P." Meanwhile, actor Willie Garson tweeted, "Bless you and Godspeed, our wonderful Magda, for 15 years of episodes and films. Thank you for your friendship and amazing talent." Hawaii-born actress Kelly Nakahara died of cancer in February 2020, surrounded by her loved ones at her home in California. She was 72 years old. Nakahara was best known for her role as Nurse Kelly on the classic Army hospital dramedy MASH. Her sister Nalani Coleman told CNN, "She was a performer and an artist, and she did her artwork to make people happy, which in turn gave her joy. People wanted to be near her. She was genuine in her persona." Nakahara was only supposed to be an extra on MASH, but she had different plans. She once explained, "I put myself in every scene and nobody told me to get out." And that tactic worked perfectly. She ended up featuring in 167 episodes of the Korean War set show, even playing the lead on occasion. Alan Alda, who portrayed Surgeon Hawkeye Pierce, told Fox News, "She was adorable and brilliant in the part, but you couldn't beat what she was as a person, funnier and warmer and kinder than most people I've known." Actress and musician Janae Dubois, best known for playing fashionable divorcee Willona Woods on the 70s sitcom Good Times, passed away in her California home in February 2020. According to her family, she was 74 at the time, although the New York Times reported that public records indicated she may actually have been older. Dubois was born in Philadelphia but moved to New York to pursue a career in acting. She appeared in several Broadway productions and ran her own acting workshop for kids at one stage, but by the 1960s, Hollywood was calling. The ambitious performer was cast in Good Times in 1974, portraying Willona Woods until 1979 and appearing in a total of 133 episodes of the Norman Lear sitcom. During her stint on Good Times, Dubois told Lear that she wanted to explore new avenues, and he suggested that she create a song for The Jeffersons, one of the prolific producer's many shows. The result was Movin' On Up, which, according to the New York Times, became one of the era's most iconic theme songs, as well as an empowering aspirational song for Black Americans. Dubois' daughter Keisha Gupta Fields later said, It provided a lot of black people with an anthem. The Philly native went on to appear in a handful of feature films in the years that followed, but she was always more celebrated for her TV work. DuBois also won 2 Primetime Emmys for her work on Eddie Murphy and Larry Wilmore's animated series The PJs, in which she voiced the quarrelsome housing project resident Mrs. Avery. Swedish-born actor Max von Sydow, best known to American audiences for playing Father Merrin in The Exorcist and Ming the Merciless in Flash Gordon, passed away in March 2020. He was 90 years old. The imposing European landed on Hollywood's radar after appearing in a string of movies by acclaimed Swedish filmmaker Ingmar Bergman. Von Sydow initially spurned U.S. advances, but when the chance to play Jesus Christ in The Greatest Story Ever Told came his way in 1965, he decided to take his talents stateside. The Exorcist and Flash Gordon further established him in America, though he would go on to be typecast as a suave evildoer in the years that followed. Most notably in 1983's Never Say Never Again, where he played classic Bond villain Blofeld in the Sean Connery flick. Von Sydow stayed active late into his career, appearing in a number of big Hollywood franchises. He portrayed explorer Lor San Tekka in 2015's Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens, and later appeared in 3 episodes of Game of Thrones, playing the all-knowing Three-Eyed Raven. Director Edgar Wright led the tributes on Twitter, calling Von Sydow a, quote, iconic presence in cinema for 7 decades. He is survived by his wife Catherine and 4 sons. Sadly, these aren't the only actors who have left us in 2020. Here are some of the other stars who enhanced our lives before leaving us all too soon. John Shrapnel, Esther Scott, Jason Davis, Raphael Coleman. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, 8255.
Turns out the man most famous for playing the wizarding world's nastiest teacher was also a dedicated friend, a mentor, and an enormous amount of fun to be around. Who'd have guessed it? Alan Rickman might be gone, but he left us a lot to think about and a lot to take as inspiration. In January 2016, Rickman died of pancreatic cancer. At 69, he was no spring chicken, but he wasn't particularly old either. Fans around the world mourned the untimely nature of his passing and its seeming suddenness. Had anyone known he was sick? How long had he been suffering? And how severely had it been publicized? How could one beloved man's passing in an age of such unprecedented interconnectivity so shock the entire world? Simply put, it was a secret. The first new thing the world learned about Alan Rickman upon his death was that he had been battling pancreatic cancer for a few months prior, after being diagnosed in August following a small stroke. Pancreatic cancer, sometimes called a silent cancer, takes time to present any symptoms and is often found after a seemingly unconnected problem surfaces. Rickman decided to keep the news confined to close friends and family and soldiered on with his work. As it happened, no one knew what they were going to lose until he was already gone. Though Rickman portrayed many noteworthy characters, Severus Snape, Harry Potter's grouchy potions professor, might be the most memorable of all. Snape is vindictive, moody, and even in his moments of bravery, deeply and unrelentingly cynical. It's a fine edge to dance upon, but Rickman made it look easy. For 8 films, he portrayed Snape with caustic aplomb, and that performance has become nothing less than iconic.
That is the second time you have spoken out of turn, Miss Granger. Are you incapable of restraining yourself, or do you take pride in being an insufferable know-it-all?
He's got a point, you know.
By all accounts, it was also the role that had least to do with his actual personality. When remembering the actor posthumously, colleagues and friends have repeatedly touched upon his unrelenting kindness and generosity of spirit. In a tribute for Entertainment Weekly, Kate Winslet mused, "If there was one word I could use to really describe Al, it would be kind. He was so kind. Whenever Al would go out to supper and anyone else would try and pay, he would somehow have phoned ahead or slipped his credit card ahead of the meal so no one even got a look at the check." Tales of helping hands, thoughtful gifts, and general friendliness seem to surround Rickman's legacy. He wasn't just passively kind, but actively generous, which is about as far from Snape as you can get. Younger fans will never know how heated the debate over Snape's true loyalties grew back when the Harry Potter saga was still a work in progress. Snape's motivations were murky and his actions ambiguous until the very end, when it was finally revealed that he was on the side of the angels all along, motivated by his deep and lasting love for Harry's mother Lily. Though some had guessed, no one knew the full truth for sure until the story's very final chapters. No one, that is, except Alan Rickman. It's since come to light that author J.K. Rowling told Rickman the truth about Snape's motivations years earlier to help inform his performance. According to Rowling, what she told him boiled down to just one word.
Always.
If you revisit the Potter films, this knowledge will become more readily apparent in Rickman's performance. Although he is sour, unrelentingly harsh, and sometimes even outright cruel, he returns over and over again to the side of light and love. His anger at Harry appears so much more nuanced than at first glance, and his frustration with the growing darkness around him more pronounced. Snape was always much more than he seemed, and Rickman made that apparent in everything, from overt declarations of loyalty to the subtlest, most fleeting glances. Though Rickman's trademark style and double-bass voice made every role he took on memorable in its own right, arguably one of his best was Alexander Dane in 1999's Galaxy Quest. Also an actor, the character of Dane feels degraded by his role as Dr. Lazarus on the in-universe Star Trek equivalent Galaxy Quest, which requires the use of a complicated and silly-looking skull prosthetic, as well as a horde of alien catchphrases.
By Grabthar's hammer. What a savings.
Galaxy Quest became an instant cult hit and is often hailed in Star Trek fandom as a better Trek movie than some of the official outings. Rickman's performance in particular, of course, is held to be one of the film's most memorable. So it's probably no surprise to find that a sequel was in the works, which was kept totally under wraps until Rickman's tragic passing put an end to the project. It's a bittersweet turn of events that acts as both a testament to Rickman's acting and a sad reminder of what could have been. There are few relationships in the Harry Potter series more charged and complex than the one between Harry and Snape. After all, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince pretty much translates as Harry Potter and Severus Snape. Snape basically gives his life to protect Harry, yet bullies him relentlessly for years. Meanwhile, Harry loathes Snape to the point of obsession, yet ends up naming a son after him. The relationship sits at the heart of the series and the crux of Harry's journey. It's only appropriate, then, that Alan Rickman matters so deeply to Daniel Radcliffe. In a Facebook post made after Rickman's death, Radcliffe hailed him as one of the greatest actors he would ever work with. He continued, "He is also one of the loyalest and most supportive people I've ever met in the film industry." Radcliffe went on to detail Rickman's kindness and generosity, his mastery of the craft of acting, and his wit, adding one particularly heart-wrenching detail. "I'm pretty sure he came and saw everything I ever did on stage, both in London and New York. Rickman's dedication to performance was legendary, but it was easily surpassed by his devotion to his fellow performers."
Thanks to the memorable characters they brought to life on the big screen and on our TVs, these actors will never really leave us. In fact, they'll always be there, exactly the way we remember them. They'll never be more than a few clicks away. Former child actor John Paul Stoyer, who played a young Klingon on Star Trek The Next Generation, died on January 1st at the age of 33. Stoyer began professionally acting at the age of 4 and was the first actor to play Alexander, the mostly Klingon son of Worf on Star Trek The Next Generation. He portrayed the character in one episode, Reunion, and other actors went on to play the role at various ages.
Why can't I stay with you?
You deserve a home.
He's perhaps best known for playing Brett Butler's eldest son on the sitcom Grace Under Fire from 1993 until leaving the show in 1996.
You're not sitting up here making plans to be dysfunctional, are you?
What's dysfunctional?
He later said he quit acting in part because of Butler's erratic behavior and controversy surrounding the series. His death was announced on the Facebook page of the rock band Problems, in which Stoyer sang under the name Johnny P. Jules for about a year. Former child actor Joseph Wayne Miller made his breakthrough in the 1995 comedy Heavyweights. According to TMZ, he died in his sleep on January 9th at the age of 36. Miller played the character of Salami Sam in Heavyweights, which was co-written and produced by Judd Apatow. In a statement to Page 6, Apatow said, "We could not have loved spending time with him more. He made everyone around him so happy. What a terrible loss."
Hey, what's up? I'm Vern Troyer.
Vern Troyer stood at 2 feet 8 inches and was born with achondroplasia dwarfism, a condition that causes cartilage to not properly convert to bones, often resulting in undersized arms and legs. In 2012, he told Jonathan Ross,
"You're born kind of proportioned, and you look pretty much normal, except for being small."
He grew up in an Amish community in Michigan and achieved fame when he debuted opposite Mike Myers in 1999's Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me. Troyer had more than 50 acting credits in movies and on television, including roles as Griphook in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone and Coach Punch Jerkoff in The Love Guru. Vern Troyer died on April 21st at the age of 49. According to People, his death was noted by the coroner as possibly being a suicide via alcohol poisoning. An announcement on Troyer's Facebook page read, It is with great sadness and incredibly heavy hearts to write that Vern passed away today. Vern was an extremely caring individual. He wanted to make everyone smile, be happy, and laugh. Actress Pamela Gidley passed away at the age of 52 on April 16th, dying peacefully in her New Hampshire home. An actress since 1986, Gidley's debut role was in the skateboarding movie Thrashin', in which she starred alongside childhood friend Sherilyn Fenn and Josh Brolin.
He says they pay $1,000 to the winner of some race.
It's no little race, it's a downhill.
Early in her career, the model-turned-actress played an android in the cult sci-fi comedy movie Cherry 2000. She went on to have a notable role in the 1992 Twin Peaks prequel film Fire Walk with Me. In 1992, Gidley had a regular role on the buddy cop series Angel Street on CBS, starring opposite Robin Givens as a Chicago homicide detective. Her last credited role was in Twin Peaks: The Missing Pieces, a long-lost compilation of extended and deleted scenes from Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. Perhaps best known for playing Lois Lane in the Superman film series, actress Margot Kidder died on May 13, 2018, at her home in Montana. She was 69 years old. Kidder moved to Los Angeles shortly after graduating high school in order to pursue acting.
In the late 60s, the whole idea was to get wildly out of control and see how far you could go before you crashed.
In 1972, she moved to New York City and scored a role in the Brian De Palma movie Sisters, a critically acclaimed psychological thriller. But her on-screen coupling with Superman, played by Christopher Reeve, really put her on the map.
Should we get on with the interview?
Yes, let's get on.
The romance between the two characters played out across 4 films between 1978 and 1987. Kidder was known for a variety of other roles, with performances in the horror movies Black Christmas and The Amityville Horror. The actress suffered from mental illness all her life, and a 1996 bipolar episode led to a high-profile disappearance. She opened up about her struggle to Canada AM in 2003.
I attempted suicide several times, yeah. I just always assumed I'd never get to be this old. I'm a grandmother now.
As she told the Idaho Press Tribune in 2017, she remained actively involved in causes she believed in, protesting against war and the excesses of the energy industry.
I've mostly been doing political activism. I was at Standing Rock in a tent for 4 months.
Anthony Bourdain was a writer, presenter, producer, and performer who helped shape how we see international food culture. He died on June 8th in France at the age of 61. Bourdain rose to prominence in 2000 on the back of his best-selling book, Kitchen Confidential: Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly. By the time it was published, he'd already gathered more than 20 years of experience in the kitchen, and his unapologetic attitude and confessional style helped endear him to a large audience.
Detoxing from what? From an heroin addict? I mean, just go home and do some more heroin. Yeah.
The book was adapted into a television series in 2005 starring Bradley Cooper as a bad boy chef based on Bourdain himself. That image helped make Bourdain a charismatic presence on the international food scene. He started appearing on television as the host of Food Network's A Cook's Tour, an adaptation of Bourdain's second book. Bourdain continued his career as a host with the series No Reservations, The Layover, and Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown. His notoriety also led to winking cameo appearances in film and television, with Bourdain appearing as himself in the 2015 film The Big Short.
It's not old fish, it's a whole new thing. That is a CDO.
He was decorated with awards from the entertainment industry for his work, earning 5 Emmys and a Peabody Award. Bourdain tragically died of an apparent suicide by hanging, his body discovered by a friend and colleague in his France hotel room on the morning of June 8th. During his life, the chef made no secret of his struggles with depression and history of self-destructive behavior, remarking in one 2016 interview, "I should have died in my 20s." Burt Reynolds was a movie star known for his displays of genial charm and unique charisma over the course of his storied 50-year career. He died on September 6th at the age of 82. Born on February 11th, 1936, Reynolds began his career on Broadway and television shows. He went on to leave his mark on American cinema through appearances in a number of successful films, including Deliverance, The Longest Yard, and Smokey and the Bandit.
We have a big chance to make a run for some big bucks. 80,000 of them.
His outsized persona and sex symbol status made him a fixture of pop culture in the 1970s and 80s. and he enjoyed wild success between 1978 and 1982 as the industry's top-grossing movie star. Despite his natural talents as a box office draw, Reynolds spent much of his career seeking validation as an actor, rarely earning much critical respect for his performances. In his 2015 memoir, he claimed he didn't start challenging himself as a performer until he was older, being more interested in leading an exciting life than cultivating a body of work. For his work in Boogie Nights, he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. He lost the Oscar, but won a Golden Globe. He also won 2 Golden Globes and an Emmy for his work on the comedy series Evening Shade.
We got this far somehow. You can believe somehow.
October is a month that's been associated with The Walking Dead for many years now, but in 2018, it brought unwelcome news for fans of the show. Just one day before the 9th season premiere on October 7th, actor Scott Wilson passed away after a battle with cancer. The actor, who portrayed farmer Herschel Green between 2011 and 2014, was 76. Wilson was a lead cast member in seasons 3 and 4, and he became a popular figure among the cast and crew. His passing was announced on The Walking Dead's official Twitter account. Our thoughts are with his family and friends. Rest in paradise, Scott. We love you. In an official statement, AMC said that Herschel was always at the emotional core of The Walking Dead, and that he continues to inform our characters' choices to this day, long after his death. If you're from Northeastern America, you'll probably recognize the late James Caron's face, even if you never knew his name until now. The character actor will be forever remembered as the Pathmark Man because of an advertising campaign for Pathmark supermarkets that lasted almost 2 decades.
So come to Pathmark. Come to number 1. 24 hours a day for value and savings overall.
Caron actually lived in Los Angeles, miles away from the nearest Pathmark store. He passed away at the age of 94 in his LA home. The Pennsylvania native also popped up in hundreds of Hollywood movies over the years, including Return of the Living Dead and 1982's Poltergeist. Good buddy George Clooney claims Caron once tricked him into writing his obituary prematurely, saying, "He just wanted to know what everybody thought about him while he was still around. He got a bunch of people to do it." Emma Chambers, the British actress known for the romantic comedy Notting Hill, died February 21st at the age of 53. According to the BBC, she died of natural causes.
This is one of those key moments in life when it's possible you can be really genuinely cool, and I'm going to fail just 100%.
Her breakthrough came in 1994 when she starred in the BBC miniseries based on Charles Dickens' Martin Chuzzlewit. She also played village church verger Alice Tinker on the popular BBC comedy The Vicar of Dibley, appearing in all 20 episodes of the show through 2007. American audiences probably remember her best as Honey, the eccentric younger sister of Hugh Grant's character in 1999's Notting Hill. She also played Helen Yardley on the TV series How Do You Want Me? From 1998 to 1999. Stan Lee became such a beloved figure, not only with comics fans, but among everyone in general, with his down-to-earth style and folky mannerisms. We all knew he wasn't in great health, but still, in November 2018, when his own epic arc came to an end at the age of 95, we were all crushed. Born in 1922, Lee's first gig at the age of 17 was as a gopher at Timely Publications. Comic books were far from mainstream at the time, but the success of Superman over at DC Comics gave owner Martin Goodman hope. He tasked Lee with writing a story for Captain America #3, and within the span of 2 years, the youngster had become editor-in-chief at Timely, later known as Marvel Comics. From his cluttered office in Manhattan, Lee helped create numerous classic comic book characters and superhero teams, from Spider-Man and Black Panther to the Fantastic Four and, of course, the Avengers. Lee famously made short but sweet cameo appearances in Marvel movies, with his personal favorite being the time Thor got him blind drunk in Avengers Age of Ultron.
Excelsior.
He told Playboy in 2014, "Keep moving forward, and if it's time to go, it's time. Nothing lasts forever." It's difficult to overstate just how much Hollywood owes to Penny Marshall, who died on December 17th at the age of 75 due to complications from diabetes. Her status as a legend would have been cemented if she'd only been known for being one half of the popular TV duo Laverne and Shirley. But that was only the beginning, as her impact on television and film went much, much further. She became a true trailblazer for women in show business when she directed the Tom Hanks star-making vehicle Big, which was the first female-directed film to gross more than $100 million. And just a few years later, she directed A League of Their Own, which the Library of Congress selected for preservation in the National Film Registry in 2012 for its cultural significance. Sadly, these aren't the only actors who left us in 2018. Here's a look at some of the many stars who enhanced our lives before leaving us all too soon. Jerry Van Dyke, Reg E. Cathy, John Mahoney, David Ogden Stiers, Stephen Hawking, Dushan Monique Brown, Donnelly Rhodes, Connie Sawyer, Mark Salling, Robert Dowdle, John Gavin, Debbie Lee Carrington, Dorothy Malone, Vic Damone, Harry Anderson, R. Lee Ermey, Mickey Jones, Nanette Fabre, Susan Anspach, Joseph Campanella, Robert Mandan, Eunice Gayson, Stanley Anderson, Tab Hunter, Elmarie Wendell, Mary Carlisle, Charlotte Ray, Stefan Carl Stephenson, Robin Leach, Barbara Harris, Clint Walker, Vanessa Marquez, Susan Brown, Carol Shelley, Bradford Dillman, Doreen Tracy, Christopher Kennedy Lawford, Bill Daly, Peter Benson, Derek O'Connor, Gloria Jean, Alan Ann McLeary, Peter Donat, Al Matthews, James Jimmy Caron, Diana Soul, Yvonne Sewer, Marin Mazzi, Jackson Odell, Ricky J., Peter Masterson, Frank Adonis. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That number again is 1-800-273-8255.
Before their deaths, the following actors didn't just make their marks as some of Marvel's most popular or interesting characters. They left behind impressive bodies of work, with Hollywood being all the better for their contributions. These stars weren't just Marvel favorites, they built some of Hollywood's most distinguished careers. Miguel Ferrer comes from a major show business family. His cousin was superstar George Clooney, and his parents were Oscar winner Jose Ferrer and 50s pop star Rosemary Clooney. David Lynch fans remember Ferrer as the opinionated FBI agent Albert Rosenfield on Twin Peaks. Ferrer also co-starred in the 1994 adaptation of Stephen King's The Stand, playing Randall Flagg's right-hand man, Lloyd Henreid. Apart from his dozens of other TV guest star roles, Ferrer made memorable appearances in films including Traffic, Hot Shots Part 2, and RoboCop. But observant Marvel Cinematic Universe fans will remember him for his brief but important part in Iron Man 3. In the final entry of the trilogy, Ferrer played Rodriguez, the corrupt Mandarin-connected Vice President of the United States who tries to help assassinate President Matthew Ellis. Sadly, in January 2017, Ferrer died of cancer-related complications at the age of 61. When stand-up comedy boomed in the 1980s and early 1990s, tons of clubs popped up in cities. Cable networks filled out their programming day with shows like An Evening at the Improv and the HBO Comedy Half Hour, and a ton of joke tellers became instantly famous. Among them was John Pinette, a gifted stand-up and impressionist. Pinette dedicated a lot of his act to making fun of himself. He toured and taped comedy specials extensively while also landing acting roles. After playing a high school coach on Parker Lewis' Can't Lose, he appeared on Seinfeld, Dr. Katz' Professional Therapist, and in 2004, he showed up as Bumpo in the ultra-violent film adaptation of the ultra-violent revenge comic The Punisher, opposite Thomas Jane. Pinette brought comic relief to the otherwise dark movie as the easygoing character and the financial beneficiary of the Punisher's crusade. Tragically, in 2014, Pinette was found dead in a Pittsburgh hotel room, and a medical examiner ruled that he'd passed as a result of natural causes. Pinette was only 50. In 1969, Peter Fonda produced and starred in the hippie and counterculture classic biker movie Easy Rider, for which he received his first of 2 Academy Award nominations. The second came for 1997's Yuli's Gold, in which Fonda starred as a grieving beekeeper with a troubled family. In between, Fonda appeared in dozens of well-known movies, including The Last Movie, The Cannonball Run, and Escape from LA. Fonda's role in Ghost Rider as Mephistopheles was among the last in a long, legendary career.
Far out.
In 2007, actor and avid comic book fan Nick Cage got his superhero franchise going with 2 Ghost Rider movies. Cage played Johnny Blaze, a bounty hunter forced into service for the unholy demon played by Fonda. In 2019, Fonda passed away at age 79 due to lung cancer. Just before 2010, Irfan Khan got acting gigs in popular and acclaimed American and British films. He played a police detective in the Oscar-nominated Slumdog Millionaire, and he portrayed the adult version of main character Pi Patel, recalling his survival of a shipwreck in the Oscar-nominated Life of Pi. Khan showed up as Dinosaur Park owner Simon Masrani in Jurassic World, and he also played the villainous Provost in Inferno. Fans of Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker will also recognize Khan from The Amazing Spider-Man, where he played Oscorp executive and scientist Dr. Rajit Ratha. As a prolific television actor, Khan broke through to the A-list of Indian cinema in the 2000s and won numerous accolades for his work in Life in a Metro, Hasil, and Pan Singh Tomar, which won him a National Film Award for Best Actor. Shockingly, in 2018, Khan announced that he'd been diagnosed with a neuroendocrine tumor. Following a hospitalization in Mumbai for an infection in 2020, the superstar died at age 53. In 2008, Iron Man became the first Marvel Cinematic Universe entry, but the modern history of movies based on Marvel Comics characters goes back to 1986 with the critically reviled box office flop Howard the Duck. Protagonist Howard is involved in everything sci-fi, including the cosmos itself, personified and voiced by veteran actor Richard Kiley.
The cosmos. Countless worlds upon worlds.
Kiley was a decorated actor, appearing in shows like Hawaii Five-0 and Columbo, and won 4 Emmy Awards and 2 Tony Awards, including one for Man of La Mancha. Kiley died in March 1999 of a blood disorder. He was 76 years old. As one of film and TV's most prolific, intense, and versatile character actors, it's hard to say exactly which role is the one for which Reggie Cathy is best known. It might be Warden Martin Kearns on the harrowing prison drama Oz, or political organizer Norman Wilson on The Wire, or barbecue joint proprietor Freddie Hayes on House of Cards, which won Cathy an Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series. Cathy also played more than one role in multiple Marvel franchises. In the 2015 Fantastic Four reboot, he portrayed Dr. Franklin Storm, father of superheroes Sue and Johnny Storm. Cathy also starred in Netflix Marvel Cinematic Universe adjacent series Luke Cage, in the role of James Lucas, a pastor and the father of Luke. In February 2018, Cathy died at his New York City home from lung cancer, according to the New York Times. Cathy was 59. Dr. Wesley Von Spears appeared briefly in both Guardians of the Galaxy films. He didn't have any lines, but he was memorable just the same because Von Spears is a dog. In Guardians of the Galaxy, the pup portrayed Holographic Dog. And in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, he played the part of Dog in the back of truck at Dairy Queen. Landing a role in Hollywood is sometimes about who you know, and nepotism definitely played a part in Von Spears' casting since he was the pet of Guardians writer-director James Gunn. The dog's influence on Marvel movies comprises more than just a couple of cameos. Gunn told IO9, "Truthfully, a lot of Groot is based on my dog, Von Spears. I think there's a sort of puppy-like innocence to Groot, that if my dog could talk, it would probably say, 'I am Groot.'" Dr. Wesley Von Spears died at age 17 in February 2020. Gunn briefly delayed filming on his next film, The Suicide Squad, to fly home and be with his dog in his final moments. Bernie Mac, Tweet Trang, Sage Stallone, these actors and more were sadly all taken from us too soon. Keep watching to find out which actors you may not have realized had died. One of the original kings of comedy, next to Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hughley, and Steve Harvey, Bernie Mac built his hugely successful career through a stand-up routine heavily influenced by Richard Pryor. That in and of itself isn't unusual, but Mac used that cornerstone to build a presence and style that was uniquely his own.
I never watch what somebody else does. It does not matter. Bernie Mac got to do his thing.
That hard work paid off in Hollywood with a series of high-profile roles. Many might recognize Mac as Ice Cube's neighbor, Pastor Clever in the movie Friday. He'd go on to star in Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, Ocean's 11, Transformers, and more, and also headlined a sitcom loosely based on his own experiences called The Bernie Mac Show. During the last years of his life, Mac suffered from sarcoidosis, which heavily affected his lungs, and he succumbed to pneumonia complications on August 9, 2008 at the age of 50. Harold Ramis was 69 when he passed away from an autoimmune disease in 2014, which in and of itself might have come as a surprise to many of the film fans who watched him in 80s classics like Stripes, National Lampoon's Vacation, and Ghostbusters. A talented director and screenwriter, as well as a frequent fixture in some of the biggest comedy hits of the decade, Ramis's behind-the-scenes talents helped bring us Groundhog Day and Caddyshack, among many others. In fact, he jumped back and forth between either side of the cameras throughout his career, co-writing both of the Ghostbusters movies as well as Stripes. Although few fans knew he was ill, Ramis struggled with the side effects of his infection for years. He had to learn how to walk all over again after contracting autoimmune inflammatory vasculitis in 2010 and suffered a relapse the following year. His final on-screen appearance came in the 2009 comedy Year One. A veteran of stage and screen who amassed a distinguished career spanning decades, Richard Harris notched arguably his highest profile role late in his career, courtesy of the blockbuster Harry Potter film franchise. In two of his final screen appearances, Harris played Potter's beloved headmaster Albus Dumbledore in the first two installments of the blockbuster film franchise The Sorcerer's Stone and The Chamber of Secrets. Although he'll always be Dumbledore to generations of Potter-loving fans, outside of Hogwarts, Harris compiled multiple careers worth of impressive credits and honors. He was an accomplished singer, actor, director, writer, producer, and songwriter who won Grammy and Golden Globe Awards for his work on 15 different albums and more than 70 films, including Camelot, The Guns of Navarone, Gulliver's Travels, Patriot Games, Unforgiven, Gladiator, and The Count of Monte Cristo. After being diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease, Harris died on October 25, 2002 at the age of 72. Best known for playing the young Carol Ann from the movie Poltergeist, Heather O'Rourke skyrocketed to instant fame as the sweet young girl that terrified audiences after being sucked into the television set. In fact, she may have played the part a little too well. Although O'Rourke racked up an impressive list of credits after her breakthrough performance as Carol Ann, she remained tied to the franchise in the public's mind, and she was one of a very small number of original cast members that remained with the movie series until its conclusion with 1988's Poltergeist 3. If you've seen the final movie, you may notice that Heather's cheeks appear very puffy, and although audiences didn't know it at the time, it was a reaction to the medication she was taking for Crohn's disease, with which she was misdiagnosed. Tragedy struck on February 1, 1988, when Heather suffered from cardiac arrest while undergoing a surgery for a bowel obstruction at the tender age of 12. Thuy Trang was best known for her work as the original Yellow Ranger on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but unlike a lot of actors who start out in genre TV, she seemed in no danger of being typecast. In fact, she was developing what seemed like a potentially promising career after leaving the show. Trang jumped right into feature work, landing roles in a pair of movies released in 1996, the dark drama The Crow, City of Angels, and the Leslie Nielsen comedy Spy Hard. Clearly, Trang had enough chops to tackle work from a variety of genres, but sadly, she never had a chance to fulfill that potential. She was killed in a car accident at the age of 27 in 2001, after the driver lost control of the vehicle and it plunged over a guardrail on California's Interstate 5. Emergency medical personnel tried getting Trang to the hospital, but she died in transit, the result of massive internal injuries. One of Hollywood's all-time ultimate that guy actors, Taylor Negron, compiled a truly impressive list of classic screen credits without ever becoming a household name. Although he tended to be on screen for no more than a few moments at a time, Negron's deadpan delivery made him a fan favorite among film aficionados of the 80s, and a standout in pictures like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Better Off Dead. Later in his career, Negron made memorable appearances on hit TV shows like Seinfeld and Friends, but as much fun as he could be on screen, he was even more interesting behind the scenes. In addition to acting, Negron was an acclaimed writer whose work included published collections of short stories, as well as a trained painter whose work was shown in multiple galleries. He was only 57 when he died in early 2015 after a battle with liver cancer. After making a name for himself as a professional wrestler, Rowdy Roddy Piper branched out onto the big screen, most notably through his starring role in the 1988 cult classic They Live. Leading that cult John Carpenter classic, Piper waged war against a covert alien invasion and coined an unforgettable catchphrase.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Piper's bone-crunching work in that film helped set the tone for a busy Hollywood career full of B-movie roles and small but unforgettable appearances on television shows like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. On the screen as well as in the ring, Piper gave every performance his all, frequently elevating otherwise forgettable material and consistently serving as the most memorable component of whatever project he was appearing in. He died in his sleep in 2015 after suffering a pulmonary embolism that triggered a heart attack. Critically maligned and pretty much ignored at the box office, Rocky V is indisputably the least loved film of Sylvester Stallone's long-running boxing franchise. Take a careful look under its cheesier elements, however, and you can see the outline of a truly affecting story about a former heavyweight champ going broke, losing his ability to box, and nearly losing his relationship with his son. To help tell the story, Stallone brought in his own 14-year-old son, Sage, to play the part of Robert Rocky Jr. Balboa in the film, and young Stallone's time on the set clearly made a positive impression. After college, Sage continued working in the industry in small, low-key projects, carving out a career in his own right apart from his blockbuster-leading father. Unfortunately, Sage died on July 13, 2012, at the young age of 36 due to a heart attack brought on by coronary artery disease. Long before he founded an ill-fated amusement park using the secrets of dino DNA, Richard Attenborough was already an accomplished and award-winning actor. Attenborough starred alongside Steve McQueen in The Great Escape, released in the midst of a busy period that included some of his most widely seen work. He also won 2 consecutive Golden Globe Awards in 1967 and 1968 for co-starring in The Sand Pebbles and Dr. Dolittle. Needless to say, Attenborough's career contains no shortage of highlights, and his work will no doubt be familiar to classic film fans. Younger filmgoers, however, have their own Attenborough memories thanks to his appearance as John Hammond, whose ambitions led to the creation of Jurassic Park. That blockbuster made him famous to a whole new generation, but it's just one short chapter in a life of many great cinematic achievements that ended on August 24, 2014 at the age of 90.
What you talking about, Willis?
Kids of the 70s and 80s, and honestly anyone who enjoys the classic sitcoms of the era, will immediately recognize the immortal catchphrase Gary Coleman coined as an adorable kid on the long-running hit sitcom Different Strokes. Coleman's diminutive stature helped him continue to play younger characters throughout much of his career, and at the peak of his fame, he landed a series of film and television roles. Unfortunately, his youthful looks and peak height of 4 feet 8 inches were side effects of an autoimmune kidney disease combined with the medications he took throughout his life to fight the condition. Work in Hollywood became harder to come by after Strokes left the airwaves, and behind the scenes he underwent frequent dialysis treatments and was forced to undergo 2 kidney transplants. After a fall at his home, Coleman died on May 28, 2010 of an epidural hematoma at the age of 42. Exactly where you remember esteemed actor Edward Herrmann from depends on whether you favor musicals, vampire movies, medical TV shows, or fast-talking mother-daughter family dramas. Herrmann is probably best recognized today for his role as pompous but warm-hearted patriarch Richard Gilmore in the series Gilmore Girls. Richard's dry sense of humor and quiet authority contrasted with the quick wit and constant banter that flew between his daughter Lorelai and his granddaughter Rory and his wife Emily, who was played by Kelly Bishop. Off-screen, Herrmann and Bishop, both classically trained and meticulous about their craft, were especially close. Herrmann's wife Star, whom he married in 1994, would joke that Bishop was his other wife. In Herrmann's final moments, his family invited Bishop to say goodbye with them. Before his longest-running role in Gilmore Girls, Herrmann worked regularly on TV and in movies. He was nominated for an Emmy for playing a priest in the medical drama St. Elsewhere and won one for the legal series The Practice. He played Franklin D. Roosevelt in the 1982 adaptation of Annie, having previously played the president for a miniseries and TV movie in the late 70s. And in 1987, he played a stepfather from literal hell in the vampire movie The Lost Boys. Herman died of brain cancer at age 71 on December 31st, 2014. In the Netflix revival of Gilmore Girls, it was revealed that Richard had also died, sparking big changes for Emily in particular. Deezer D was one of the foundational actors on hit medical drama ER. Born Deron Thompson, he played nurse Malik McGrath on the show's entire 15-year run, appearing in 188 episodes. As often happens in real hospitals as well as fictional ones, ER typically focused on its physicians and surgeons, not the nurses. But Thompson was one of just a handful of actors who appeared in every season, and his episode count makes him the 5th most prolific member of the large cast. Outside of ER, Thompson had a few small parts in movies, including the cult classic comedy Romy and Michelle's High School Reunion, and appeared in Vanilla Ice's video for Cool as Ice. He played one of the members of a fictional rap group in the mockumentary movie CB4 in 1993 and also rapped for real. He released multiple records, including the full-length album Delayed But Not Denied in 2008, and continued making songs until his death. His final track, History Can't Be Stopped, was released posthumously. Thompson started having heart issues around 2008, telling Radar Online the following year that he had been suffering from recurrent pneumonia and heart failure. It was discovered that he had a leaking valve and expanded aorta, which was addressed with surgery in 2009. According to Deadline, he went on to have more operations on his heart over the next 10 years or so. Thompson died on January 7, 2021, at the age of 55 of a suspected heart attack. Katherine Joosten was in her 50s when she started working consistently in notoriously youth-centric Hollywood in the mid-1990s. She'd start acting in 1980 after realizing she was missing out on following her dreams. Despite her late start, Joosten built a career playing one-off but always memorable characters in hit TV series. Her credits include ER, Third Rock from the Sun, Seinfeld, Roseanne, The Nanny, Frasier, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and The X-Files, to name just a few. Later, she would add the likes of Will and Grace and Grey's Anatomy to that list. In short, name a hit show of the 90s and 2000s and Joosten probably appeared in it. Her most memorable guest appearance was as a woman who refused treatment for kidney failure in season 1 of Scrubs. The episode My Old Lady consistently ranks as a fan favorite, thanks in no small part to Joosten's performance.
Unfortunately, we don't really have a choice.
Well, actually, I do have a choice.
Certain things you never expect to come out of a person's mouth.
I think I'm ready to die.
In addition to those guest roles, Joosten landed regular parts in 2 major series. She played the steely secretary to Martin Sheen's President Bartlett in 2 seasons of The West Wing, combining her talents for fast-paced drama and comedy, and nosy but occasionally helpful neighbor Karen McCluskey in Desperate Housewives. Joosten was first treated for lung cancer in 2001, the year My Old Lady aired. She was undergoing treatment while making the final season of Desperate Housewives, which was written into her character's arc. McCluskey died in the season finale. Joosten died 2 weeks after that episode aired, on June 2, 2012, at the age of 72. Hugh Dane's resume reads like a list of the top sitcoms of the 90s and early 2000s. He played 2 different characters in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, appeared in an episode of Martin, and multiple episodes of Rock. He had small parts in Friends, Sister Sister, Everybody Hates Chris, and New Girl. On the drama side, he played a judge in an episode of The West Wing. He also appeared briefly in the comedy movies Little Fockers and Bridesmaids. However, Dane will most likely be remembered and missed for his role as Hank, the permanently unimpressed security guard in The Office. He appeared in 22 episodes of NBC's hit mockumentary about the inner workings and ridiculous shenanigans in a Scranton, Pennsylvania paper company. Dane died at the age of 75 on May 16, 2018. After his death, his The Office co-star Rainn Wilson described him as one of the greats, so kind, funny, and talented. On January 1, 2021, NBC's streaming platform Peacock tweeted a video of a cold open that never aired dedicated to Dane. It showed one of Jim's most elaborate pranks on Nemesis Dwight, featuring Dane as Morpheus from The Matrix.
If the blue pill's not safe to swallow, someone should tell us now!
Kenny Baker originated one of the most beloved characters in one of the most popular movie franchises of all time, but you wouldn't recognize him from that role out of costume. Baker is most famous for playing R2-D2, the brave and mischievous Star Wars droid. He was born with dwarfism, but it wasn't just Baker's height that made him perfect for the role. According to his New York Times obituary, he was the only person small enough to fit into the costume who was also strong enough to move it. It helped that Baker had been in entertainment for years. He sang, danced, played instruments, clowned, and ice skated in various touring companies. As he told The Guardian, "There are certain close-up movements only I can do convincingly. It's all about giving R2 a personality, and CGI can never really do that." In addition to R2, Baker played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi, alongside his wife and fellow actor Eileen. But the furry, violent inhabitants of the jungle planet Endor were less fun to play than to watch, thanks to the stuffy costumes. It wasn't just that they were hot. The heads were impossible to see out of when they steamed up. The last time Baker played R2 was for Revenge of the Sith, although he served as a consultant on The Force Awakens. He also appeared in many other movies and series, including Flash Gordon, Time Bandits, and Amadeus. He died at the age of 81 on August 13th, 2016. If you're a millennial who grew up wishing you could have an identical twin to swap lives with, you probably remember Natasha Richardson best for her role as the extremely cool fashion designer mom in the Lindsay Lohan-led remake of The Parent Trap. That was Richardson's most prominent screen role, but she had a prestigious stage career. It started with a touring version of The Seagull, which ended in London's West End, with Richardson appearing opposite her mother, renowned British actor Vanessa Redgrave. TV fans may know Vanessa best for her role as Dr. Erica Naughton in Nip Tuck, opposite her older daughter and Natasha's sister, Jolie Richardson. Jolie should also be known to fans from the Parent Trap era as Anita in the 1996 live-action adaptation of 101 Dalmatians. As you've probably noted, Natasha was part of an acting dynasty. Her grandfather, Sir Michael Redgrave, Vanessa's father, was famous for tragedies. Natasha's aunt, Lynn Redgrave, Vanessa's sister, was an Oscar-nominated theater superstar. To round out the family, Lynn and Vanessa's brother, Corin Redgrave, was a stage actor and playwright. Natasha met actor Liam Neeson when they starred opposite each other in a Broadway production of Anna Christie. She was nominated for a Tony for the role, and the two later married and had 2 sons together. Natasha died suddenly of head injuries sustained during a skiing trip on March 18, 2009. She was 45. In a show that made superstars out of its 6 main cast members, James Michael Tyler managed to hold his own as one of the most memorable side characters. He played coffee shop manager Gunther in Friends for all 10 seasons, appearing in 150 episodes total, although he didn't have a line for his first 33 appearances. Tyler originally landed the role because he knew how to work the fancy espresso machine on the Central Perk set. Not one to take himself overly seriously, after Friends he played himself in the satire episodes, which saw that version of Tyler experiencing a slightly awkward reunion with Matt LeBlanc, who played Joey on Friends, also playing himself. Tyler loved the experience of being in Friends, although there was one drawback. As he told Digital Spy, he was cast with very distinctive bleached blonde hair, which added to his character's mystique. But it was originally the result of an experiment he let one of his friends perform, which turned into weekly bleach jobs for 10 years. Tyler was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2018, which he didn't make public until June of 2021. That month, he announced in an interview with NBC that the cancer had reached stage 4, meaning it had spread to other parts of his body. He died just a few months later on October 24, 2021. A veteran stage, film, and television actor, Richard Griffiths is known by the masses for his portrayal of Harry Potter's uncle, Vernon Dursley. While Dursley was, for the most part, always cruel to the young wizard, he was still a part of Harry's family, and he ultimately helped prove that the boy who lived had a golden heart because he still cared for the uncle who treated him poorly. Outside of the Harry Potter series, Griffiths won a slew of awards over the course of a busy career, earning particular acclaim for his portrayal of English teacher Douglas Hector in a play called The History Boys. He also starred in a variety of projects, including Superman 2, Gandhi, Sleepy Hollow, King Ralph, Hugo, Pirates of the Caribbean, On Stranger Tides, and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Griffiths passed away at 65 on March 28, 2013 due to complications shortly after having heart surgery. Brad Renfro skyrocketed to fame at age 11 through his acclaimed work in Joel Schumacher's adaptation of author John Grisham's book The Client. High-profile roles quickly followed, and Renfro made appearances in Sleepers opposite Brad Pitt, The Informers starring Kim Basinger, and Ghost World alongside Scarlett Johansson. Yet, as his star continued to rise on screen, Renfro faced a darker path behind the scenes, one that would ultimately see him fulfilling the sad destiny of many child actors, plunging into a life of illegal drug use and trouble with the law. After attempting to buy drugs from an undercover LA police officer, Renfro pleaded no contest to attempted possession of heroin and spent 10 days in jail. On January 15, 2008, at 25 years old, Renfro's turbulent story reached a tragic end when he was found dead of an accidental heroin and morphine overdose in his apartment in Los Angeles. Dana Plato played Kimberly Drummond in the long-running hit television series Different Strokes. Cast alongside fellow child stars Gary Coleman and Todd Bridges, she was catapulted to instant stardom. To cope with the mounting pressures of fame, Plato often indulged in cocaine and marijuana off the set, yet it wasn't until she became pregnant that the network released her from her contract, helping her trigger a downward spiral of drugs and alcohol that included work in adult films and a spread in Playboy magazine. She later moved to Las Vegas, where desperate for cash, she robbed a store for less than $200 and was bonded out of jail by Vegas entertainer Wayne Newton. She died at the age of 34 on May 8, 1999, in her RV in Oklahoma after taking a fatal dose of Lortab and Valium. Best known for her work starring as Mel Gibson's daughter in the blockbuster The Patriot, Skye McCole Bartusiak was a child actress with a promising future. She made her film debut in the Cider House Rules in 1999 and starred with Michael Douglas and Brittany Murphy in Don't Say a Word in 2001. She also appeared in the film Kill Your Darlings with True Blood star Alexander Skarsgård in 2006. Unfortunately, Bartusiak's life behind the scenes wasn't as glamorous as fans might have assumed and included some dangerous drug habits that would end up contributing to her having an accidental overdose in 2014. According to Bartusiak's mother, the young star had also been suffering from epileptic seizures prior to her passing, which led to the family initially believing she choked to death before the coroner's ruling made the tragic truth clear. Before getting his big break, Michael K. Williams was consistently cast as one-dimensional criminals. He was a young black man in a white industry that didn't know how to tell diverse stories about people who looked like him. Also, he had a distinctive facial scar from the time someone attacked him with a razor, something else Hollywood didn't know what to do with. Williams' big break came courtesy of The Wire character Omar Little, an armed robber who targets drug dealers and the most feared man in a territory ruled by violence. But Little wasn't a carbon copy of those previous characters. For one thing, he was openly gay in a homophobic society that mocked gay men as weak. For another, he was known to give some of his ill-gotten gains to people in his much-in-need community. After playing Omar, Williams landed roles in several prestigious series, including crime drama The Night of When We Rise, about the gay civil rights movement, and a recurring part as a racketeer in prohibition drama Boardwalk Empire. He even got to show off his comedy skills in Community. In 2019, he appeared in Ava DuVernay's When They See Us, as the father of one of the wrongfully accused Central Park Five. In 2020, he was nominated for his 5th Emmy for the HBO series Lovecraft Country. Williams died at the age of 54 on September 6, 2021, of what was later confirmed as a drug overdose. If you or anyone you know is struggling with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's national helpline at 1-800-662-HELP.
Some of the most talented performers of all time reached the end of the road doing what they loved, making movies and television for devoted viewers across the globe. Their sudden passing while on the job left their castmates reeling and fans heartbroken. Here are a few stars, both young and old, whose lives were cut short while they were hard at work. Redd Foxx. On his classic 70s sitcom Sanford and Son, Redd Foxx was famous for faking a heart attack to get out of a conversation, and audiences loved it.
Well, this is a big one. I'm dying. You hear that, Elizabeth? I'm coming to join you, honey.
Foxx brought the bit out of retirement when he returned to TV in 1991 with a sitcom called The Royal Family. But during rehearsal, according to production spokeswoman Rachel McAllister, Foxx and his co-stars were clowning around and Redd was sort of breaking people up when he collapsed. They all thought he was joking at first. 4 hours later at the hospital, Foxx passed away at age 68 of a heart attack. John Eric Hexum. 26-year-old heartthrob John Eric Hexum starred in Cover Up, a CBS action show in which he played an elite military operative. One day in October 1984, the producers told Hexum that scheduling issues would delay filming, so he grabbed a prop gun and quipped, "Can you believe this crap?" Then he pulled the trigger. Prop master Frank Lowe remembered,
He unloaded all but I guess one round what would appear to be a game of Russian roulette, put it up to his head and pulled the trigger.
The prop gun fired a cotton wad bullet, driving a bone fragment into his brain, which caused severe hemorrhaging. The actor was rushed to the hospital, where he fell into a coma and passed away 6 days later. John Ritter. While he had a successful film career with roles in Sling Blade and Bad Santa, John Ritter will forever rank among our most beloved and prolific TV actors.
She's gonna send you bowling. I don't bowl. I'm supposed to teach you.
His likability and gift for physical comedy helped elevate Three's Company, and his return to TV in 2002 as the star of 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter was one of the biggest stories of the year. ABC had renewed the sitcom for a second season, and production was underway in September 2003, when Ritter suddenly fell ill on set, feeling dizzy and nauseated while complaining of chest pains. Ritter checked into a hospital in Burbank, where doctors treated him for what they initially thought was a heart attack, but further tests revealed a previously undiagnosed aortic dissection, which proved fatal for Ritter. He was just 54 years old. Steve Irwin. Famously known as the Crocodile Hunter, Steve Irwin was the enthusiastic Australian nature show host who boldly ventured into hostile environments to teach viewers about dangerous and exotic creatures.
You can see why they call them tiger rattlesnakes.
But in September 2006, as Irwin and crew were filming a documentary about the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, Irwin and cameraman Justin Lyons encountered an 8-foot-wide stingray, which attacked Irwin. Lyons said the creature launched hundreds of strikes in a few seconds, delivering a fatal dose of venom and a 2-inch-wide gash over Irwin's heart. He was 44 years old. Tommy Cooper. A beloved British entertainer, Tommy Cooper combined corny jokes, prop comedy, and magic for an act that was popular in the UK for decades. But tragedy struck in April 1984 when Cooper appeared on the Live from Her Majesty's variety show. The show's host, Jimmy Tarbuck, and likely many viewers of the live broadcast, thought Cooper was improvising when he fell to the ground. But the entertainer had suffered a heart attack. The show cut to commercial, and Cooper was rushed to a hospital, where he passed away at age 63. Tyrone Power. Having enjoyed a meteoric rise to superstardom in the 1930s, Tyrone Power's breakthrough role in Lloyd's of London came in 1936 when he was just 22 years old. He went on to establish himself as an extremely versatile actor, but was most often cast in swashbuckling adventure movies such as The Mask of Zorro. In 1958, Power landed a title role in Solomon and Sheba. But on November 11, 1958, as Power shot the 8th take of a demanding sword fighting scene, he started to shake and said he suddenly felt chilly and achy. Power passed away en route to the hospital, having suffered a fatal heart attack at age 44.
Star Wars has been around for decades, so it's a sad but inevitable reality that many of the actors who have appeared in that galaxy far, far away are no longer with us. Here are a few faces from the franchise you may not have realized passed away. Admiral Ackbar had a pretty small role in the original Star Wars trilogy. In fact, he only appeared briefly in Return of the Jedi. Even still, the character's appearance made him a firm fan favorite, as did the iconic line that has now passed into pop culture legend.
It's a trap!
Wow, Admiral Ackbar!
Naturally then, fans of Star Wars mourned the unfortunate passing of Ackbar's voice actor Eric Bauersfeld, who died in 2016 at the age of 93. Interestingly, Bauersfeld once argued that he thought of his movie roles as a secondary career that he had accidentally stumbled into, as opposed to his more solid work as a radio producer. He once wrote, "The voice work I did in movies was accidental. I was working with Randy Tom on radio dramas at his technical quarters at Lucasfilm. One day Ben Burt, sound designer for Star Wars, came by and asked if I would audition for a voice in the movie." Bauersfeld also voiced Bib Fortuna, one of Jabba the Hutt's associates, and he returned to the role of Admiral Ackbar in The Force Awakens, which released just months before he passed away. As he dies in the opening hour of the film, Uncle Owen can be considered a pretty minor Star Wars character in the grand scheme of things, but his death is the primary call to arms that sets Luke Skywalker off on his hero's journey. So in a weird way, Owen is actually one of the movie's most important characters, making actor Phil Brown one of the story's pivotal players. Sadly, Brown passed away in 2006 at the age of 89. Even though he was well known when Star Wars was made, he'd faced plenty of hardships as an actor. In the 1950s, Brown was caught up in Senator Joseph McCarthy's communist trials and was actually blacklisted because he refused to comply with the House Un-American Activities Committee's demand to name communists in Hollywood. He denied being a communist himself, but was still forced to move to London to continue acting. As it happened, George Lucas was filming in London at the same time and needed a local actor with an American accent, so he brought Brown on board. Not long after, Brown was with Lucas in Tunisia, filming A New Hope's early scenes on Tatooine. A powerhouse English actress, Sheila Fraser, died in 2000 at the age of 79. She had played a small but memorable role in A New Hope as Luke's Aunt Beru. The character dies early on in the story, so Fraser was unable to contribute a lot to the film, but just like Lars, Beru's death spars Luke into action, driving his character arc through much of the trilogy. And even though her role in Star Wars is small, some would argue that she's indirectly responsible for Luke becoming the hero he is. At a New York Comic-Con panel, author Meg Cabot argued that very case, suggesting that Aunt Beru's kindness and caring for Luke helped him overcome the dark side and defeat the Empire. It also helped him find the compassion to look for the good left in Darth Vader, without whom he never would have stopped Emperor Palpatine. So yeah, nice work, Aunt Beru. Drew Henley appeared in the Star Wars franchise as Red Leader, the pilot who led Luke's squadron in the strike against the Death Star at the climax of A New Hope. Sadly, he was accidentally credited as Drew Hemley at the end of the film, but hey, he at least managed to squeeze in a post-mortem appearance in Rogue One thanks to the power of archive footage. In the first film, Red Leader actually nearly destroys the Death Star. He launches his torpedoes at the exhaust port, but his aim is slightly off. Not long after his miss, his ship is destroyed and the poor guy is subsequently killed. Henley was a well-respected actor when he was cast in A New Hope, but was forced to retire not long after the film was released due to his struggles with bipolar disorder. After working through his mental illness, he settled down to run a bed and breakfast with his wife. Henley died in 2016 at the age of 75. Anakin Skywalker has been played by multiple actors across the Star Wars franchise, but when his deformed, weary face is revealed in Star Wars Return of the Jedi, that's classically trained actor Sebastian Shaw playing the role. He also portrayed Anakin's Force Ghost at the end of the original version of Return of the Jedi, before being replaced by Hayden Christensen in subsequent releases. Shaw was mostly known as a stage actor outside of Star Wars fandom. He was a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company, where he'd often play lead or featured roles. He was also a Broadway veteran and was well known for taking on parts in daring and controversial plays. Lucas choosing to digitally replace Shaw with Christensen in Return of the Jedi sparked some controversy at the time, but Star Wars fans will still never forget the reveal of Darth Vader's face. Shaw passed away in 1994 at the age of 89. Jason Wingreen didn't actually appear in the Star Wars films in person, but his voice brought one of the saga's most iconic villains to life. Wingreen was the original voice of Boba Fett, the intergalactic bounty hunter who tracks down Han Solo during The Empire Strikes Back. Wingreen was also a well-known television actor when he auditioned for Star Wars, having appeared in a number of different shows throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He originally auditioned for the role of Yoda, but lost out on the role and was cast as Boba Fett instead, and only recorded 4 lines for the final film. He's not even credited, and it wasn't until the year 2000 that the public discovered who had voiced the villain. Still, it's a testament to Wingreen's talent that Boba Fett became such a massively popular character nonetheless. Wingreen passed away in 2016 at the age of 95. You may never have seen Kenny Baker's face or heard his voice in a Star Wars film, but it's a fair bet you still know who he is. For most of the movies in the franchise, he portrayed one of sci-fi's most iconic characters, R2-D2. R2-D2 wasn't a puppet or an animatronic like so many other creatures in the Star Wars universe. Instead, there was an actor inside that droid. Baker was only 3 foot 8 inches, so he could fit inside the chassis used for filming, and he's the one responsible for crafting much of R2-D2's personality. When Baker passed away in 2016 at the age of 81, StarWars.com wrote, "Whether it was the slow turn of R2's dome to convey suspicion or nervous wobbles signifying fear, Baker made a robotic being seem very human." While Baker played the droid in all 3 original films and 2 prequels, he also played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi. Peter Cushing was a massive star when he was cast as Grand Moff Tarkin in A New Hope. He also brought an immediate gravitas to the film, oozing menace and calm and somehow coming off every bit as intimidating as Darth Vader himself.
Charming to the last.
Before appearing in A New Hope, Cushing was an icon in horror cinema. He appeared in many of the Dracula and Frankenstein films of the 50s and 60s, and also portrayed Sherlock Holmes in a few movie adaptations. After a long and illustrious career, Cushing passed away in 1994 at the age of 81. Despite this, however, he technically reprised his role as Tarkin in Rogue One, a Star Wars story, even though the film came out over 20 years after his death. Cushing was recreated in the film with state-of-the-art CGI, nearly climbing out of the uncanny valley in the process. Nearly. Even though Obi-Wan Kenobi died in A New Hope, Alec Guinness appeared in the other films of the original trilogy, thanks to the power of the Force. His casting lent some credibility to the original film, but he also infamously viewed the story as, in his words, fairy tale rubbish. Guinness was a hugely famous actor when he signed on for George Lucas's space opera. He'd won an Oscar for The Bridge on the River Kwai and had starred in classics such as Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago. And while many of the leading actors in Star Wars are big names now, they weren't at the time, making Guinness by far the biggest star in the movie in 1977. But why did he join the project if he hated the material? Well, there are a couple of reasons. First, he thought the moral of the story was admirable enough. Second, he wouldn't have to do any publicity for the film. And third, the studio offered him a massive salary. Of course, he ignored any fan mail he received about Star Wars and hated discussing his role as Obi-Wan. Sir Alec Guinness passed away in the year 2000 at the age of 86. One of the most prolific actors in the Star Wars franchise, Christopher Lee's career spans over 250 roles over the length of his career. Lee is absolutely one of the gods of geekdom and has graced several of Hollywood's most notable franchises. Here, he portrayed Count Dooku in 2 of the prequel films, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Lee became a star due to his many appearances in the Hammer horror Dracula franchise, where, funnily enough, he frequently collaborated with another Star Wars alum, Peter Cushing. Lee's imposing figure and commanding voice made him perfectly suited to play the villain, which helped him a great deal in arguably his biggest ever film role, playing Saruman in The Lord of the Rings. A man of many talents, Christopher Lee also released a number of heavy metal albums when he was in his 80s and 90s. He was also knighted, served in the Second World War as a member of the RAF, and was attached to the British Army's Long-Range Desert Group, the precursor of the modern-day SAS. He passed away in 2015 at the age of 93. Despite never having shown his face on screen in Star Wars, Peter Mayhew quickly became one of the saga's most iconic characters. His performance as Chewbacca helped bring a sense of real humanity to a character where many other actors could have easily been lost beneath a mask.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
Mayhew was a hospital orderly when he auditioned for Chewbacca, and even kept that job until after Return of the Jedi was released. The 7'3" actor then essentially made his living off the role for the rest of his life, attending conventions as a fan-favorite star for decades. He eventually reprised the role in 2015's The Force Awakens. Nearly everyone who worked with Mayhew on the Star Wars franchise had nothing but kind things to say about him. After his death in April 2019, Mark Hamill wrote on Twitter, "He was the gentlest of giants. A big man with an even bigger heart who never failed to make me smile, and a loyal friend who I loved dearly. I'm grateful for the memories we shared, and I'm a better man for just having known him."